guys know I'm a huge advocate of being honest about how you feel when it comes to movies and TV shows. I think everybody owes it to themselves and other people to be honest about how they feel when it comes to what you've watched, what you've consumed, and to speak up about it. I have no issue with that. I actually think it's important to do that. However, as of the time of me recording this video, we are still several hours away from the release of Ironheart to the general public. Like, some critics have seen it, some press people have seen it, but us, the general public, we have not seen this yet. And right now, if you go over to Rotten Tomatoes, it is sitting at, as of the time recording this, 32% fan score. How can a fan score exist for a show that's not even out yet? How is that even possible? Spoiler alert, it isn't. It's not possible. This is what a hate campaign looks like. This is what a downvote campaign looks like. This is what it looks like when a community decides that they are going to proactively astroturf and hate something and make it look like a failure before it even comes out. So the show is releasing at a disadvantage. And Rotten Tomatoes should level this score out back to 0. That's what they should do. Because this is not an honest score. It's not a real score. This is another reason why I advocate that Rotten Tomatoes should not release their scores until after something has premiered. When a movie gets released on a Thursday, release the score on a Friday. When a TV show comes out on a Tuesday, release the score on a Wednesday. Give people a chance to actually consume the media before they start scoring it. Because I can almost promise you, this isn't the first time or the last time that this kind of proactive hate campaign has happened to a movie or TV show. And what doesn't make a lot of sense about this one, and why this one is even more baffling to me, is it's very clear that Marvel is putting this out to sort of just get it out there. There's a lot of people who've already said they're not going to watch it. And those people that say they're not going to watch it or they don't think it looks good or whatever are the ones going on and downvoting it before it comes out. So these aren't even the people that would be consuming the media. So this is an unfair representation of what this show is from the fan perspective. This is why on the Nerdcast, on the live streams, whenever we talk about Rotten Tomatoes, whenever we have a discussion about any of these aggregation sites, I always say take it with a grain of salt. Look at it, it's okay to discuss it, but it should never be used as a metric on whether or not you're going to support something, whether or not you're going to see something, whether you're going to take your ass to a movie theater and watch a movie that you want to see because of a score that you see on Rotten Tomatoes, or whether or not you're going to sit down and watch a TV show and give a TV show a shot because of a score on Rotten Tomatoes. I think this is a massive, massive red flag, and you guys need to keep this in mind anytime you bring up Rotten Tomato scores or Metacritic scores, or you see a YouTuber use this as some sort of metric of quality. It's just not real. This isn't real life. This is a fabrication. The people that do this are so worried that the show is going to be well received that they are proactively downvoting it before it even comes out. They're trying to make sure, they're trying to create a reality where the show is a failure because they're worried that it won't be. And that should make you think.
Woo! Bad faith criticism.
Are you a talentless YouTuber pretending to be an expert?
Do you have a tantrum when you're criticized for being totally full of shit?
Then the excuse you need is bad faith criticism.
Anti-fandom goes by a few names. There are subgroups that overlap quite a bit. The Fandom Menace, Comicsgate, the newer spin-off of Comicsgate, Rippaverse. For years, the content creators flying these banners have used pop culture and nerd media as a vessel for their regressive, antisocial, and hateful views. And they were able to hide it behind reasonable doubt. They would call themselves apolitical, unbiased, and that they just want their Star Wars and Marvel movies and comic books and so on to be free from any social or political messaging whatsoever. To most fans, these have been transparent fallacies the entire time. It's absolutely absurd to say that only now have these IPs become political. George Lucas has long stated that Star Wars was inspired by the Vietnam War, among other real-life events.
You did something very interesting with Star Wars, if you think about it. The good guys are the rebels. They're using asymmetric warfare against a highly organized empire. I think we call those guys terrorists today. We call them Mujahideen, we call them Al-Qaeda.
When I did it, they were Viet Cong.
Exactly. So were you thinking of that at the time?
Yes.
So it was a very anti-authoritarian, very kind of 60s against the man kind of thing, nested deep inside of a fantasy.
Or a colonial, you know, we're fighting the largest empire in the world.
Right.
And we're just a bunch of hayseeds in coonskin hats that don't know nothing.
That's right.
And it was the same thing with the Vietnamese.
Yep.
The irony of that one is in both of those, the little guys won.
Right.
And the big, highly technical empire,
the English Empire, right?
the English
British
Empire, the American Empire, lost.
Yeah.
Stan Lee said since the 60s that Marvel was intended to be a world much like our own, but with superheroes, and that Marvel Comics should represent a compassionate perspective.
Marvel has always been and always will be a reflection of the world right outside our window. That world may change and evolve, but the one thing that will never change is the way we tell our stories of heroism. Those stories have room for everyone, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or color of their skin. The only things we don't have room for are hatred, intolerance, and bigotry.
The Matrix was very obviously about challenging systems of control, i.e. government, and less obviously to me back then was the transgender allegory. Of course, that's easy for me to see now with the understanding that I have about human beings, thematic analysis, and being fortunate to have learned about trans perspectives. From Lucas's views on Vietnam to Stan Lee's humanist values, and the Wachowskis' then closeted trans identities feeling constrained by systems of control. So you end up with rebel scum taking down an empire, Spider-Man's great sense of responsibility to help people, and Neo being reborn with the power to change the entire system and bring about a world free of arbitrary authority, people telling him who he can and can't be. And that is exactly what the anti-woke, anti-SJW, anti-fan, anti-humanist, anti-reason crowd are determined to destroy. Not wokeness, not politics, not pandering or bad writing. Perspectives. They know that when diverse perspectives are represented in popular media, it creates empathy with audiences. Audiences of people who have never met a trans woman or who have never really considered the unique and sometimes hate-filled obstacles Black people might face. They never thought about the fact that women have to be on guard constantly in public because over 40% of women have been sexually assaulted, and about 70 women per day take their own lives after experiencing a sexual assault. And that figure has grown by 3% since last year. If enough people become empathetic to these perspectives and experiences, there would be a paradigm shift. And a certain percentage of a certain demographic, basically mine, are under the mistaken notion that this would harm them somehow.
Look, you gullible morons, I think at this point it's safe to make this one very important point. You don't know of me because I'm a talented, skilled writer whose body of work is just so good it's sold millions all over the world. No! I've shit out 14 bland, generic, cliched bits of dog shit that are leagues worse than any of the things I've ever attempted to criticize myself. Even the covers are cheap shite. Ah! Oh God, make it stop! Even at home in Scotland, you know, the place I'm from, the place I live, you would have thought even someone local would have heard of me at least. No!
Have you ever heard of a writer called Will Jordan?
No.
You've never heard of him at all? Have you ever heard of a YouTuber called The Critical Drinker?
I haven't.
Over there? Have you ever heard of a Scottish writer called Will Jordan?
I haven't, no.
You've never heard of him? Bless you. Have you ever heard of a writer called Will Jordan?
No.
You haven't? Will Jordan?
No.
Never?
No.
Have you ever heard of a Scottish writer called Will Jordan?
I have not.
You've not heard of him at all? Called Will Jordan. So, you live in Scotland, do you? I do. Fantastic. Have you ever heard of a writer called Will Jordan?
No.
No. Anybody else here? Have you ever heard of a writer called Will Jordan? No. Anybody else?
A writer?
Called Will Jordan?
I have not.
No. Thank you very much.
right, you assholes.
What do you think? This woman
Fuck the diversity. You've never been oppressed in your goddamn life.
Do not post any hateful content or make hateful comments.
Nazis. You've never been oppressed in your goddamn life.
You've got anti-woke everything.
You don't want to upset that fraction of the audience,
I know.
so you got to keep it loose enough.
You can pick up the softback trade paper.
Oh no, they become grifters.
It's about bad actors, acting in bad patterns and bad faith, exploiting bad systems to create bad pipelines and spread bad politics.
They've created a pipeline.
One thing has become clear. This is the darkest, most terrible timeline.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I mean, they've always been wrong, but they used to have this veneer of personal fortitude, of some sort of internal strength, and now we cry because we're too small.
Like, I don't get offended by shit.
We're talking about media literacy here, and to expose the people that are profiting off of like the culture war surrounding conversations and discourse about film.
They're like, oh, they're going woke. It's more like an MCU. Go get vaccinated.
Two people can be saying the same word and thinking almost completely different things. We're in agreement, right? We both hate wokeness. Well, this guy's thinking, I just don't like whenever they put Black Lives Matter messages in TV shows. And this other guy's thinking, I want to kill black people.
That's the first step in radicalization right there.
I could point out woke ideas in all movies.
Because you are threatening me here about what the reciprocation of conservatives, if us Democrats or progressives or queer people or whatever speak up about how we feel. You're going to feel our wrath. You're going to feel our fury. Okay, cool, bet. I understand that. And that just makes me want to fight even harder.
Young white males who are threatened by these groups. I think a lot of these guys aren't sure of their manhood because that's a problem when you're going through adolescence. You know, am I really? Could I be? I hope I'm not. And them. And the women who assert themselves and are confident are a threat to these men. There's a certain sharing of anger and rage.
Anti-woke everything. Let the culture wars work for you.
Hello and welcome to the fucking Shillcast. Hi, everybody. It's me, and my camera's off alignment as per usual. So things are normal around here. Earth's still spinning, as you can see. I want to point out that, you're welcome to crap on religion in general, as we are wont to do around here sometimes, or at least the practitioners of religion, if not the religion itself. But we're not going to be, singling out any specific religion. Thank you. I appreciate that, bot. Anyway. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Let's see. Do we have an Eric Debunks in the house? Is there an Eric Debunks with us? Eric. D. I think it stands for Dwayne Bunks. Are you with us? You've just won. No? Okay. Well, if somebody hears from Eric D. Bunks, he's won the prize for today. Comicsgate bin over party, man. It's fucking. But you might be surprised. I got a little, I don't know, surprise cameo from somebody related to that today. Well, all right. So here's what we're gonna do today, guys. We're gonna talk about some stuff and some shit. And I guess might be on my own today. I know. Bob Chaos is still doing family stuff for the weekend, Thank you for the algorithmic engagement. I appreciate it. Listen. Is anybody taking the right seriously right now? You know what I'm saying? All right. So how's everybody doing, man? I got some comments I wanted to respond to real quick. So first of all, this guy said this. That's true. This is the one I want to respond to first. Ironheart has 6 episodes, and yet the thing that we're talking about is how it was review bombed before a single one of those episodes dropped. So, try and stick with the program here. Try not to prejudge, because this was literally made before the stream started. So thanks for the input, though. And just a slight correction. Metacritic and IMDb didn't do the review bombing. If there is review bombing there, which I imagine there is, I haven't checked myself, but I'd take your word for it. They don't do the review bombing. It's, users. Generally the audiences of the folks that we talk about on these channels here. Let's see. I mean, I wouldn't go that far. Sometimes there's just a shitty movie, like they fucking crapped on what was it, Madam Web pretty hard, and nobody actually gave a shit about that movie. So, thank you. Yep. Shout out to New York. Fucking big win last night. Hopium is in the air. That's good shit. And yeah, just to reiterate, sorry, don't be coming in here just like picking one specific branch of your general religion and then shitting on that as if yours is any better. In other words, don't be like, oh, Catholics suck, whenever we got fucking white evangelicals of the US are, kind of a big problem right now. But so are Catholics, you're all fucking problems for me. All right. All right. So who we got? Yeah, I mean, right? Come on, be less obvious. I have not even heard of Lazarus. What is that? The episodes that are out are good, and Dominique Thorne rules as the character. I started watching the episode, and then I had to jump in the shower and get ready, and I had a bunch of other family stuff going on. I just haven't had time to sit down today. I plan to sit down tonight, but look at this guy sitting down right now. Look at him sitting there. How's it going, man?
Good. What's up?
Not a lot.
We watched all of Ironheart. It's fucking great.
Damn, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the probably 7 minutes that I saw while I was already starting to get ready, I was like, man, I got to watch some of this, and I shouldn't have even done that.
It's not like anything we've seen in the MCU because it takes place in Chicago, which we've never seen that city before.
That's pretty cool.
The story it's a story we've never had before in Marvel. Yeah, it's really good. Like if you dislike it, you have to just be like, I don't know. At worst, I would say it's probably okay, but it's definitely not. All these people giving it ones on Rotten Tomatoes and stuff. It's just.
I mean, especially because we know they haven't watched it. Yeah. It's just we've seen it a million times at this point. I mean, like that one comment a minute ago said that they just assume it's going to be a good show. I mean, not necessarily, but like we can assume that it's probably gonna be something that has a diverse perspectives in it, diverse angles, characters, creators. So it's got points in its favor, at least as far as that goes for me, because we do need diverse perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, what is it? What's his name that hangs out with Chris Gore? Andy something.
What's that now?
Sorry, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He hangs out with Chris Gore on Film Thread. Andy.
Oh, that guy.
Anyway, he was bad that there wasn't any, or he's probably being sarcastic, but he was like, there was no, I think like no Asian people in the show or something like that, and it's like
performative bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I noticed with I think it was Thunderbolts when I saw that, because you remember back whenever we were, I think you covered with us the John Bolerjack saga.
Yeah.
That we thankfully were contributed to him not getting his thing funded on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Praise be to Bill Gaines, in fact. But while we were looking at that, at one point, we looked at Nerdrotic's stream with him on there promoting that shit, and Chris Gore was on there, and he was complaining because the MCU doesn't open with pages from the comic in the logo.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And then I'm sitting there, theater to see Thunderbolts, and lo and behold, pages from comics.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, thanks for making me think of Chris Gore right now, but fuck him. And of course he's not going to update and say, oh look, they fixed it, I'm happy with that now, or anything like that, because nothing they say is sincere.
Mark, it wasn't Andy Signor. That's not who I'm thinking of. Let me see if I can find it.
Woo. So
Andy Signor, haven't heard that name in forever.
Jack Kirby is an acceptable religion. Yes, I will accept it. We accept that around here. Ironheart kicks ass. think Ironheart is good, but the first episode is just okay. I've heard that a couple of times now.
Yeah, it gets progressively better as the
Cool.
episodes go on. Because
Ironheart.
I think the problem is you're getting introduced to basically 99% new people. It's just like Ironheart's the only character that we've ever met before, so everybody else is sort of trying to introduce who they are and what they're about and everything, and so it kind of builds. I'm really excited for the next 3 episodes because apparently the way they broke it up was one writer and director did the first 3, and then the last 3 is a different writer and director, but it's all produced by Ryan Coogler. So this is gonna be
Okay.
kind of interesting.
Cool. I didn't know that. That's a good shirt. That's a good one. Let's see. He was a great character in every scene with Zeke. Is Zeke the solo actor? Who's Zeke? The Han Solo.
Zeke is what is his name? Elden, whatever his name is.
Alden Ehrenreich, is that it?
Yes, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Cool. Heard it was out because of the review bombers. Let me know it was going to be out soon. Yeah, I know, right? At this point, it really just shows, like, it doesn't say exclude the quality of whatever it is they're review bombing. What it shows is that they are not confident that audiences will think it's bad. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if they have to fucking shit on it and all that, then, for instance, let me pull something up here. Just as an example, I got a couple of these examples, actually. Damn, what did I do with them? Man, I swear I had that shit. Just here we go. Is this it? I don't know. Give me just a minute to find them. But what's going on with you, man? How's things? I actually decided to make this stream about this topic because of your video.
The Friday Night Tights video. Yeah,
you said they're using white supremacist talking points, and I'm like, yeah, that's true. And then I was like, well, specifically, it's white national. They've constantly always.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so what I decided to do to prove that point is to have several examples from their content, various creators and Friday Night Tights and stuff, but also, look at what exactly constitutes being white nationalist, because I know that some people will be like, oh, you call anything you don't like a white nationalist. No, just white nationalism.
Well, what I love is that people like Shad just talk out of their ass and say things that don't even, like, false equivalency arguments that make no sense. White privilege can't exist because Asian people in America typically earn higher money at jobs, like they have a higher income in their household, so white privilege doesn't exist. There's no argument. There's crickets when I bring that up. Well, because it doesn't even compare. Those two things don't even work.
Yeah, not at all.
But then everybody on the panel just kind of let him say it, and that's how I knew. I'm like, yeah, they're just okay with, like, these really bullshit white supremacy talking points.
In general, yeah. Yeah, so apparently all of the stuff that I had moved from one drive to another to have it ready did not actually copy over properly. So that's great. We're doing great. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the Shillcast without me fucking something up, technically. But I'm not going to get in fights with chat, so don't even try it.
Why was there? Did somebody say something to you about that? No. Oh,
no.
I was like,
it's it's a thing I've done before a couple times. But yeah, it's. Did you catch the final Fantastic Four trailer?
I did not see that. No. I know we hear Galactus speak. I do know that somebody talked about that.
You see a little bit more of him as well, and Ben Grimm has a beard at one point. I don't know if they added that more recently or if it was in there in some of the same earlier shots that we saw, and I just missed it. But so I mean, obviously because of the baby and everything, this clearly takes place over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they don't do like Captain America: The First Avenger and do like a montage of superheroics. It's like my least favorite part of that movie.
Well, I mean, that happened in the Fan Four Stick movie too. They did a montage of stuff several times in that movie.
I wouldn't know. I didn't make it through, but about first quarter of it.
Yeah, there's like 2 major montages, especially before the reshoot. So it's like it was bad.
So yeah, did you want to? Because I have your video here, but I don't want to like. Put
We
you on
can
the
watch
spot.
it. I mean, I don't mind. We can put it up and watch it. I mean,
Yeah, just show you what I was watching this, and I was like, man, that's a good thing to talk about.
Yeah,
just in general.
Nerd rotting. So very quickly, there's one part of this clip from one of their streams that I want to talk about, and it's their statements here about Mark Ruffalo and immigration. So the title of this video is Mark Ruffalo is dumb, millionaires bashing billionaires, how ironic. The title is just stupid. It's tone deaf. It's like, it's all kinds of wrong. We're going to watch a very small portion of this because I want to debunk a lot of the talking points they have and show you guys what it's like when you have these kinds of outlets sort of pushing like a white supremacy viewpoint on all of this. And
hey man, I don't blame you, dude. Like I would be pretty fucking embarrassed too, to be honest, but you can fuck off as well.
Praising billionaires, bootlicking for billionaires. I want to show you what that looks like and debunk all of this. And everything that I say in this video, every bit of information that I give is going to be researchable. I will double check everything that I'm saying to make sure it's accurate, because what I want to do is I want to show you guys how these talking points from a lot of the folks out here, whether intentional or not, come from like a white supremacy background.
Did you want to talk about Ironheart's more, or do you want to?
I mean, it's very spoilery. I mean, like if I talked about any more of it, it would spoil stuff because a lot of the characters are really important. So if I talk about it, it would end up spoiling it. I would say watch it. like okay. Honestly, it's 3 hours. They actually, the quality's there. There's no problems with the VFX. The acting's really good. I think the soundtrack is good. Like I said, at the worst, it's just okay, but it's not bad. So it's worth the time to watch it.
Wait, so you're not saying because it's woke, it's like the best thing ever, and it's like everything you dreamed of? Oh my god!
But some people might think that. I can see how some people could argue that it's like their favorite thing. I would say I'll say this: it's probably one of the better produced like Marvel TV shows. Like, wow, it looks like they spent a lot of time in post production to make sure it looks really good.
I feel like they fell off like right after Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Does that seem right to you?
Yeah, I would say that's probably.
I mean,
right.
like they've. I guess the only really kind of just lame and boring one was Secret Invasion. What a disappointment!
God, that was awful. That can we erase that from the internet? But like the thing I love about this one is similar to Ms. Marvel. Ironheart and a lot of these younger characters grew up in a world. See, this is what I think a lot of people, like the older guys that complain about this, are missing the point. These are characters, and Dane, you know this because you probably read a lot of these runs from, you know, when they came out as comics, but
not when they came out, but in recent years, I have gone back and read that stuff. Like, honestly, to be honest, when it happened, when she came out, pretty quickly after that, there was just, you know, this, I've said before a few times that they kind of grouped a lot of these legacy characters coming out at the same time of temporarily, to anybody that knows comics even a little, temporarily taking the original, you know, and doing something else with them for a period, which they've done a billion times with each character. But you know, I'm like, that's the only sympathy that I've kind of been willing to give Comicsgate or whatever. Is like, I get like that for a moment it seemed kind of like, oh, jarring, what are they doing? But at the same time, just wait a few months and then that character will be in its own book, and then the original character's back, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to dedicate your life to it on YouTube and make your identity about hating these characters. You really don't.
But anyway. What I think is interesting, though, like for me, is what is happening in the MCU with these characters is literally what would happen in a world where kids grew up with superheroes being celebrities, which is what we're seeing. Like a lot of these heroes, like the Avengers, Tony Stark, Captain America, things like that, you know, Captain Marvel. These are people that exist in this world who are heroes and celebrities because that's the way this world sort of places them. They've saved the world many times. There's musicals about them in New York. There's merchandise of these characters and existing in canon in the MCU. So to act as if none of the kids growing up in this environment wouldn't emulate or try to be like these heroes because they feel like that's the way to really get noticed, to be important in the world, is just a complete, like they would have to completely ignore like reality in the terms of how people view media. Like, look at how it is now. Look how celebrities sort of drive what the younger generation does. Like, it's a very important aspect of that. And that's what the superheroes represent in the MCU, is like sort of this celebrity. So younger characters emulating their idols and wanting to be quote unquote iconic like their idols is something that would actually happen. It's actually a really smart way to introduce these new characters. But they ignore that because they want the stagnation of like the humans existing, the non-superpowered people existing in this world to never change. To them, that's all background noise. It doesn't matter. Those people don't matter. And by introducing characters like Ironheart and Ms. Marvel and, you know, and other younger characters, they're going to have the opportunity to show what it would be like to actually grow up and live in a world where heroes are celebrities.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I made a video a couple of years ago where I said that basically Legacy, I've seen several times Chud saying that, these characters cheapen the original. It's like the exact fucking opposite. Legacy makes the original more, special. Like you read any, the reverence that Miles has for Peter Parker, or the reverence that basically any, in Spider-Verse or whatever, our Peter Parker, 616 Peter Parker is the Peter Parker. And it makes it very clear that he's like the Nexus one or whatever. And it's like they go out of their way to say that the character you know and love is the most important one. And then yet there's all these variations just because it's comics and we're going to have some fun. But they don't like fun, I guess. So,
well, they also have an issue with things like stereotypes when it comes to characters. Obviously, they would say like they make fun of Riri for being a smart black girl. And that's sort of like their go-to complaint about the show is that she's intelligent or she could possibly be smarter than Tony Stark, however they want to look at it. But they're also trying to own the, how should I put this? They're trying to make it so that someone like Riri shouldn't be looking up to Tony Stark because she's a little black girl and he's a white guy. And how dare she try to aspire to be someone like that when her role model should be someone in the hood or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that's the way they make it seem, like that she can't have a role model of someone that they think is this amazing character. Like that's impossible to them.
I found one of the things I was looking for. Oh, we got somebody else. Hey, it's friggin' Ryan. What's up, man?
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you off the bat this time.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Good Hello.
Job. Hey, so as far as just to kind of touch back on the review bombing thing, I found what I was looking for a minute ago. One of the examples I have anyway. So let's check this out. It's a screen recording I did back when the Acolyte was, I think, the final episode had dropped, maybe, or no, maybe it was midway through or something like that. So here's just a screen recording of a tweet thread of someone you guys will recognize, I think. Oh yeah, you got to pull this out first and then share it. God damn it! I hate the changes you've made.
I don't know why they've done that. It's really, really annoying.
So people saying, "Oh no, they're not review bombing. It's just legitimately whatever." So here's Nerderotic. Good night. #Acolyte. 15% audience score. Now, what do you think the replies you're going to say?
Oh, I mean, I know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
It's just going to be racist. They're going to be racist comments about it. So
no, not really. I mean, maybe, but like the main thing I'm looking at is the egging on of the downvoting.
Yeah.
Deserved. I still think the score is too, because they like to deny that these campaigns happen. You know what I mean? Star Wars
the same thing they accuse gay people and trans people of doing is living in a delusional world is exactly what they're doing. They're creating their own environment where the show is objectively a failure because they can't accept that people like the show. You know what I mean?
Let's see if we can hit one digit, right? Wow. I mean, none of these people even watch the show.
No.
That's what you get for selling your creation for cheap, George. They think they've done something here. Never forget, critics scored the Acolyte at 92% at release. The score is so fucking high. It should be in the negatives by now.
I'm pretty sure the audience score is quite high, though, still. But so,
Adam.
But okay. So the comment up there, the little dog meme or whatever. I mean, is there a cognitive dissonance occurring in this? Because if it is objective, it's not an opinion. It would be something that everyone agreed on because that is how objectivity works.
Believe me, I've made that argument a bunch of times. People have literally been called bad faith by the Maulerites for making that.
I mean, like if the user score is 15 and the critic score is 80 something, then there is no objective answer. It is all subjective at that point.
Like these people are all have like raging hard-ons at the idea of Star Wars dying.
Well, they've been force-fed this by Nerdrotic and this entire group. Like, they've been told that Star Wars dying is a good thing. They've been told that for so many years that they've convinced themselves now at this point that that's a good thing, instead of just not watching it.
Disney must have paid a lot of shills to write 5-star reviews to keep this turkey out of the single-digit realm. Damn, this is horrid. It's like Leslie Headland got geared up with strap-on and then sexually abused the already dead. Okay, so I mean, you're just typing your fetishes
I
out
also
on
want to
Twitter.
know, like, who are the people that are being paid? Like, how is that? Like, how would that even work? And what, they never have proof of this.
You know why I think that they are, you know, like something that comes up in your video that you, that whenever you're watching their comments on Ironheart, or no, is it Ironheart that they're talking about? No, they're talking about Mark Ruffalo at the No Kings protest. But yeah, so they're talking about, I'd have to watch it again to remember exactly what it was, but it was basically like they kind of telling themselves, if you really pay attention, they cannot fathom that somebody believes in something. They only think that they must be getting paid to do something, and
Because
it's like, wow.
because their entire world is surrounded by money and capitalism, so that's all they understand. Yeah,
And you know, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, without any firm evidence, but a whole lot of like really circumstantial evidence, I believe that they are in league with one or more right-wing organizations, media organizations, possibly even politically affiliated, and you know, receive some kind of funding through that shit. Like whether it's, you know, a few chains down the you know, down a few links down the chain or whatever it is, but I think so. Like, and the fact that they are so on message all the time. Do you think these guys could get this organized for this many years in a row over anything else? You know what I mean? If they weren't just getting paid and also getting some kind of messaging handed down to them, you know what I mean? I don't think so. You guys are fucking morons. Anyways.
Well, I mean, also all we have to do is look at stuff like Tim Pool, you know, and Benny Johnson and stuff. Like, we know for a fact that there are like unnamed backers injecting money into that media. I mean, it's pretty much been confirmed. Like, it's pretty much been confirmed. So this idea that they're getting paid money to do what they're doing is a reality. And in their reality, they can't imagine, like you said, doing something for anything other than getting a paycheck. So they assume that everybody on the other side is also doing it for the same reason, because that's the only thing that makes sense in their world. So,
I mean, yeah. And I mean, I do have some content about that probably played before the stream on my channel, I think. But yeah, so you got this one. Oof, damn, 15%. Well, wasn't it like 17 or so last time? It looks like that 10% may become reality soon. Are you saying you have a goal of that? I guess so.
Well, I mean, the fact that he posted this is sort of telling people, hey, get your alt accounts ready and go ahead and download.
Right. That's what I've said before. They don't have to, you know, because I've brought up camp review bombing plenty of time. We all have, and then their defenders will show up. Oh, they haven't said go and review bomb. They don't have to. They don't have to say that at all, because you are fucking programmed. You know, if they say that this thing is woke and bad, and then, oh, look, it's about to come out. You know when it's about to come out. They knew when this was going to drop. I forgot that this shit was going to drop today. You know what I mean? And like, that's how pathetic they are. They're so focused on it. It's yeah.
I also want to point out that in going back to Ironheart for a second. Oh yeah, go ahead, read that.
This goes to our point of the topic today, though. So yeah,
go ahead, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's racist. But I want to point out that when Gary, and I made a video about this, and this is my follow-up to that Shea Coulee, who is a drag queen, has a pretty substantial role on the show. And the team that she's affiliated with, while not all of them have massive, like, fleshed out backstories, they all play a part in the show. So it is Ironheart, but it's also like a team show. It's like a I don't want to say Avengers, because it's sort of like Robin Hood and his, you know,
it's more like an ensemble, right?
Just yeah, but
good supportive cast.
The fact that all of the vague comments about how bad it is prior to it coming out, when Gary was saying he knew someone that had seen all 6 episodes, I firmly believe that was 100% a lie. Yeah. I firmly believe that, because after seeing these first 3 episodes, there's lots of things that happen in these first 3 episodes that he would have definitely talked about in a video.
Yeah,
See, I've
100%.
had access. Go ahead. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, I've seen the first 3 episodes as well, and there is 100% several things that they would have spent months, if they'd known about, they would have spent months making videos about them. If we had seen any of the stuff that's in the first 3 episodes in the trailer that they will latch on to now, then they would have gone to town on it, because it's perfectly within their wheelhouse of misinformation and genning up this negativity towards the show.
I can think of 3 characters specifically they would have gone really hard on. I'm not going to spoil it here. I'll wait for people to watch the show. But there's 3 characters in the show. When you guys watch it, you'll go, yeah, these guys would have probably like astroturfed the show because of these characters. Because they're already trying to do it with Shea Coulee. I've seen like bounding in a comic saying, oh, this drag queen was supposed to save Marvel or whatever. When you watch the episodes, that's just an absurd statement. It's an absurd statement. It doesn't even make sense. So they hadn't seen the show, but because Shea Coulee was announced back in 2022, and we just started seeing pictures of Shea like right before the show came out, they were like, oh, this character is going to be a big deal, and this is Marvel's trying to push diversity or whatever. And when you watch the show, you realize how fucking wrong they are about it. Like, it just wrong at every turn.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say a second ago that like I've had access to one Disney Plus show or MCU Disney Plus show, early access, like via not me personally, but I knew somebody that was getting screener copies, and they were only getting 2 episodes at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not to say that they do it the same way every time, but to think that somebody had access to all 6 episodes before the first one even dropped seems kind of far-fetched to me. But yeah,
but this is also something they do. I want to just reiterate this before we move on quickly, but this is the idea that this is the thing that I talk about quite often in my videos, how they paint themselves as either insiders or experts. That's the 2 things they sort of do. They either know everything about what they're talking about and they'll never admit they're wrong, or they have an inside person that's feeding them information so they can get the message out to everybody, about how bad something is going to be or whatever. And them doing that sets them up in a way that makes them convince their audience that they are the person that you should be listening to and no one else.
Almost missed this super chat.
Yeah.
Not sure who that's to. Did we?
Yeah, it's not on my channel. Yeah, it's not on my channel, but thank you for the super chat.
Yes, thank you. Like how in My Hero Academia, the current generation looks up to the old heroes. I don't know much about that show, but I do know that part.
Yeah.
Exactly like that.
The truth is the second iteration of the X-Men is basically the legacy of the X-Men. Like the ones that came out in the 70s, all of those are sort of legacy characters of the original X-Men, with the exception
every
of the
single one
they carried over. So the ones that people love, like Wolverine and Storm and stuff like that, they're characters that are carrying on the legacy of the X-Men.
I mean, we talked about
that. Not only that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So that lineup where you've got Storm, the black African princess, you've got Wolverine was the Canadian, you had the Russian Colossus. They were all purposely picked to be an international team as well, weren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were, not only are they legacy
Sunfire from Japan was on the original team. You had a Native American character.
Yeah, so not only are they quote unquote, well, not only are they legacy characters, but they're quote unquote DEI hires. They would be.
Look, I've said this before. If the original 5 X-Men changed to the 1970s like uncanny X-Men lineup today, I can only imagine what the videos would be. I can only imagine what it would be.
Yeah. It literally saved the X-Men. The X-Men was canceled. Not a lot of people know that. I think it was issue 63. Original run got canceled, and it wasn't until 75 they brought it back with such a diverse cast, and that's the one that stuck, and that's the one that became the X-Men.
And due to the success of that, they started running classic X-Men, like re-releasing the original run and just having covers done by like Art Adams, and some of those Art Adam covers are amazing, by the way.
So, I mean, it's only just getting started, but like in the comics, she deals with far more magic-based stuff, which I mean, this show seems to be doing as well.
Yeah.
At one point, she has the Mandarin's rings in the comics, which is pretty cool. Tony's not comfortable with that, so that sets up some interesting kind of conflict there. I don't know if, a lot of people, these people that think Miles is just a rip-off Spider-Man, they're just using Peter's stories over again. Do they not realize that he's been a vampire and he now has a sword? Do they know about that? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, he's got a fucking energy sword that he creates out of nothing. They reveal themselves as not knowing shit about shit every time they speak about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, look, also, I want to point out, how they complained, and Ryan, I think you'll probably, I don't want to give away too much here, but how they complained about Riri being like this Mary Sue character that doesn't have to do anything to get stuff, it's just handed to her. That's completely demolished in the first 3 episodes. Like, you see that things are not just given to her. She has to work and figure things out for herself, and she doesn't always get it right.
Okay,
like,
so
she makes a lot of mistakes in the first 3 episodes.
So, I mean, I hate to put you on blast here, man, but you're saying you don't like Barry Allen? You don't like Hal Jordan?
A legacy. I didn't say legacy characters in the sense of like they carry on a mantle.
Right.
The X-Men is a legacy team.
Right.
The title X-Men is a legacy team. The roster changes over time, but they're always still the X-Men. So that team title is the legacy. The characters within them change. So it's not necessarily just pulling the title from another character. It's literally the entire team is a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we're also dealing with archetypes. So no, they're not exactly the same or iterations of that character, but they are falling into some basic archetypes of those characters. So Colossus is the big, strong one. Wolverine is the beastly one. Storm is the powerful, sort of, I don't know, magic-y sort of one. So they do follow basic archetypes. I mean, like how you could basically say that Captain Marvel, the original Shazam Captain Marvel, is the template for Superman. So in effect, have I got my timelines right with that? Which was Captain Marvel. Anyway, whichever one came first, the other one had the same basic power set. And serves the same story purposes, but
I want to just put a kibosh on this whole fucking legacy characters with the same name thing, because let me give you guys a little history lesson. So the first, generally regarded as the first actual, well, he's more of a crossover character between the, oh, by the way, Chariot's here. Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hello. You always sneak in on me. How's it going?
It's going really well. I'm enjoying the conversation. Not as much of a comic.
I was about to introduce everybody to probably already knows who the character is, to the Phantom, who is he's kind of considered a crossover character. He was the first character. He had one foot in the kind of noir adventure kind of swashbuckling comics that came before, and then one foot in superheroes because he was the first character to have a domino mask, first character to wear his underwear outside of his tights, and then guess what? The first version of the Phantom that you were introduced to is like the 17th or 18th person in succession to become the Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
He is literally a legacy character. So the first proto superhero is a fucking legacy character introduced to him as such. And I just don't see that there's any kind of argument that you can make that it's like not in the spirit of superheroes or goes against originality or something like that whenever the genre was built on partially a character who was a legacy character from the beginning.
But I also want to point out that not to like go backwards a little bit, but to sort of clear this up, a legacy character doesn't have to share the same mantle entirely. They can just be a spiritual successor to a character.
Legacy character.
Yeah.
You
Like I would argue for a time before the name change, X-23 was the legacy character to Wolverine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Laura was the legacy character and did not share the mantle for the longest time. It wasn't until recently that I think she was given the mantle.
I think it might have been the 50s or maybe, I think that maybe, I don't know, 40s? I'm not sure. He was definitely designed to be a ripoff of Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he was that far back? Wow, okay. Shows what I know without Wikipedia. So somebody had said, you'd responded here. But you were just criticizing characters having the same superhero names.
But that's not the only time legacy applies. I mean, legacy applies to...
there's precedent for all of this.
Right.
All of it.
Like
All the-
Ironheart is a legacy character to Iron Man, but does not have the same name. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the point. They don't have to share the same name. They don't have to have the same powers. Like
that's not
just-
even not even getting into. I need to upload that segment we did where we compared the comment sections for the Ironheart trailer a while back, because the narratives that they've added onto it, aside from all that we're talking about, like that she's smarter than Tony Stark or something like that, and it's like I don't think they've said that at all. I don't believe they are saying that. She just stole his equipment. They assume that she must have just stolen his armor. I wonder why that is. You know what I mean? Not that she's just a smart girl who saw Iron Man and goes, oh, I want to try and build something like that, and then did it.
Yeah, just going through my list here, like the Spider family, the Bat family are full of characters that carry on the legacy of the original character that don't share similar powers or skill sets. They're just a continued legacy of that mantle.
I know I brought this up before. Did any of these people ever complain that there's another Batman and Flashpoint paradox? Because there's another Thomas Wayne is the Batman in that timeline.
Yes, yeah.
But he's a white guy.
Right, but that's like it's okay to have I guess it's not diversity, so it's bad if they're black, right? Like that's
Well, I mean, he is old though, so maybe that they're cool. I guess that hierarchy and whatnot. They think that's
we
pretty
love
cool.
a silver fox king.
I would argue as well that as far as the X-Men goes, X-Men is the mantle. They're known as the X-Men. The comic books called the X-Men. That's the mantle, not their individual qualities. It's the team, because the whole point is that it's the individual team working as the collective whole that makes them better. So the X-Men is the mantle.
I mean, that becomes so clear with when it comes to Captain America, Sam Wilson Captain America, because what's wrong with I've literally heard people argue that they're disrespecting the mantle of Falcon to make him Captain America. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, Falcon was pretty cool for a sidekick, but like to be Captain America is a statement of.
Oh no, they're disrespecting the title of assistant manager by promoting someone to manager. What will we ever do? What will assistant managers do?
I mean, there's if you want to talk about fucking Dan Ketch was the Ghost Rider that I grew up with, and I thought he was the coolest shit. Then I found out about Johnny Blaze, and then years later I found out about the one before that, the Ghost Rider that was they call him Phantom Rider in the comics now, but he was he wore all white and rode a horse, but his name was Ghost Rider originally. And I mean, the vision that and like or love or don't like, I don't know. There was a character named that in the like proto Marvel era, like the Timely era.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm hallucinating, but wasn't there like a Superman timeline where it's his dad that goes to Earth or something?
Yeah, that's wait, well,
maybe it's someone else, but I was thinking of something like that.
There is a more recent storyline where he finds out that his dad had actually lived. I don't know how that wrapped up, if it turned up to be actually his dad, but it did seem like it for a while. And his dad
There's
was
one where he goes to Krypton and he meets and I think he has a brother.
Fun fact, J Kung here. In the video that I reviewed, for some reason, they don't view Asian people as minorities. So that's the reason why that's the reason why they don't attack like Asian race swaps, but they attack any brown person that gets race swapped. So
you're 100% right, Roy. 100%. Sorry. 100%. Well, yep. The guy on the cover of Marvel Comics #1, the man in flames that's bursting through the door, that's not Johnny Storm.
Weirdly, isn't that Vision?
Yeah.
No,
yes.
that's a Human Torch.
Oh wait, no, Wonder Man. And the Vision is a combo of Wonder Man and the original Human Torch.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, Human Torch.
Yeah.
That Human Torch becomes Vision, while Johnny Storm becomes the Human Torch.
Yes, and Vision gets like a brain mapping from Wonder Man. So.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen them I've definitely seen him shown in videos as examples, but I haven't seen him gone in on it specifically.
I get it now, though. The video that I watched that I reacted to, I understand now. They don't think of Asian people as minorities. or yeah, they say it in that video.
Oh.
They think that because Asian people contribute to capitalism by making a lot of money at their job, that they don't consider them as part of that.
So that's why they give somebody like Will Smith a pass or something like that, right?
Well, it's.
I didn't ever think of that. That's crazy.
The thing about all of these guys is like a lot of them won't say it, but a lot of them believe in like race and IQ differences.
Yes.
I know
eugenics
that
bullshit, basically.
Yeah, there's a few that don't. The EFAP guys have argued against this actually, which broken clocks and all that stuff. But I know the Smudcast guys have explicitly argued that. I believe some of the Friday Night Tights people believe it as well. I think Shad believes it.
Well, I mean, that would explain it why he has such an issue with like the whole Wakanda and Black Panther thing, is because he doesn't want to believe that black people or people with darker skin could have the intelligence to do those kinds of things in his mind.
Yeah, I think I said this in your comment section, Eric, but one of the like consistent lies about like race and IQ tends to be about like attainment and education, which is part of what they were saying about like Asians and like Asians aren't marginalized because they like do really well in test scores, which you can infer backwards that they're really smart. The reason for this is actually that immigrants in general frequently will test better than if you're born in America. Like if you move to America, or if you're the child of people who do, because that demographic will select upward for people who have the finances and the capital to move abroad. Whereas like you're getting a much wider class distribution for people who are born here, which is also, by the way, why like African immigrants often get really high test scores, but black people born in the United States don't.
Right. Even Flo, I've already disproved this. This is a false equivalency. The fact that Asian people on average get into better paid jobs in the United States does not have anything to do with the racial discrimination and white privilege. They're just not connected. It's an issue that's not connected together. I can see how people that don't understand the issues, no offense to you, but I could see how people who don't understand those issues would try to pair them together. But what happens is they become like a white nationalist, supremacy like talking point.
Yeah.
Well, because white privilege doesn't mean that white people don't suffer hardship. It means that they don't suffer hardship because they're white.
And I think it's the problem as well.
Old talking point. I think Shad said that on that one of the panels that you reacted to, Eric, where it was like he's such a
even Flo's like, no, I'm not one of them.
well, I'm not. I didn't say that you were. I wasn't me attacking you. I was correcting the thought process from other people. Like I never said. No offense, but if I respond to a comment, it doesn't mean that I'm negatively talking about you. Like I'm just correcting whatever the misinformation is.
Right, and I wanted to do that. In fact, right, up here.
Here we go. Yeah, go ahead. I got one I want to talk about here.
Ask any biologist what the term adaptation means, and they will say it suggests change. They would be a shitty biologist, because let me show you here what the actual definition is. Because I mean, this actually proves that the characters that we're talking about fit this definition pretty perfectly. Something produced to adjust to different conditions or uses, or to meet different situations. So let's say Miles Morales was produced in 2009, I think, to meet different situations, that being that they wanted to reach new audiences, diversify their audiences and readers. So they created a character that would, hopefully do that. That's just one example.
There's a really good comment in chat right now, actually, from Ghostman King. White nationalists idolized the Nazis, and the Japanese were the Nazis in Asia. It's kind of, I get for character count, because it's a chat comment, a little bit of an oversimplification, but like I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
and the thing is, like, this is a thing about Orientalism that's really common, is like white people in the global North will be like, oh man, those people are savages, but I really admire how they control their women and their race. Like I wish we did what they do, but for white people, is basically how right wingers in our countries talk.
So I have a relatively short video here. It's only a couple minutes or so. That we'll go ahead and set the stage for white nationalism in general, just so we can have.
Can I just respond quickly to this one comment? I want to point this out. This is the misunderstanding about white privilege. And as a white person, let me explain to you what this means very quickly.
Just real quick, I know Mark is being sarcastic.
Yeah. I understand. I want to explain this quickly to everybody in the chat in case they don't understand. This is what the chuds point out, or they say that like white people, that white privilege means that white people don't suffer anything. And that's not the truth. Like, white people do suffer economic hardships, and there's a lot of things that white people go through. And anecdotally, individually, there are probably some white people in certain communities that also suffer from that. But systemically, throughout the country, there's nothing that a white person suffers for being white. And that's what they push to these guys. As a white person, if you get stopped by a police officer versus a black person getting stopped by a police officer, chances are you're going to have less issues with that cop because you're white, whereas a black person is probably going to receive some sort of like attitude or something along those lines because they're black, and that's the difference. Like,
if they get arrested or they have to go through the courts for whatever reason, they're gonna statistically.
I mean, that's just one tiny example, but yeah, I just wanted to clear this up. Not that I was insisting that Mark felt this way. I wanted to point that out because that is how they feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, we were just kind of talking about that. I think, right? Like, so if I could use the example of Will Smith, right? Or there's any number of people that they will point to as being like the good example of a black person or whatever, presumably, I guess, because they're successful and rich and they're paying into the system, and because
that's literally the O.J. Simpson quote, right? I'm not black, I'm O.J.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also the Veil of Darkness study. Do you guys remember that one? Do you remember that study? Yeah, so basically Stanford did a study, and I think, let me look at the numbers here. It was like 98 million stops or something. It was a lot. Basically, it proved that after sundown, the rate of stops, not arrests, not people getting taken to jail, just stop for traffic violations, evened out between all ethnic backgrounds, right? But before sundown, when cops could see the driver of the car, black drivers and brown drivers were pulled over at a much higher rate than the white drivers were. Showing that when they could visibly see the drivers, and again, 98 million cases were looked at, proved that before sundown, black people, brown people were basically harassed by police officers. That's a study done by Stanford. And there's other ones. There was one done in California. There's also one done in Chicago. University of Michigan. There's a lot of studies that are done like this. So, I mean, it's just, these are provable things. When you deny things like studies and you go directly into your feelings, then you are participating in bigotry at that point. And that's why tinted windows are banned in many places. That's a good point,
Whoa.
Jedi.
Wow.
I think that's usually the case because of police seeking like probable cause in stops.
Mm-hmm.
There are other reasons as well. It's not specifically that. I know that there's a car guy on YouTube who put up, he tinted his windows to how they would be tinted on a certain person's car. I don't know if it was a celebrity, I can't remember. And you couldn't see anything through them. So that was the other thing. Some with no restrictions.
Like limo grade tint, basically.
Yeah.
$5 super chat from Sean, which should explain the meaning of sundown towns. I mean, now that I think about it, because I didn't honestly know about them until I watched Lovecraft Country.
I knew about them, but I didn't know they still existed. Like, I thought that most of them were gone, but apparently there's still
there's one about 40 miles from my hometown in southeast Texas, man. Vidor, Texas. It was in the news nationally in the 90s because there were some good old boys dragged a black man. I believe his name was James Byrd Jr. Dragged him by a chain behind their truck for a while, and his limbs came off. But it's still technically, there you go. You got it. But yeah, it was, historically, definitely in Jim Crow South, it was far more prevalent in the South, where you just, if you're not white, you don't be outside after sundown.
And the other thing is the fact that
I also think, like,
as much
even
as
Illinois has like 100 of them. Like a lot of northern states have a lot of sundown towns that still have those laws on the books. They're just not legally enforced. There's a lot. There's crazy how many there are. There are websites that track that sort of stuff.
The fact that that has been hidden from us is crazy, because I didn't know, like you said, when Dane, you were watching Lovecraft Country or whatever, and you noticed this information being provided to you, and I'm like, I knew about them, but I thought they had been abolished. Basically, none of them existed anymore.
Well, I mean,
the fact that was hidden from us is like crazy.
The 30s or so, I believe. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just the fact that it had been so far detached from me knowing about it that I just had completely forgotten that.
I mean, the same thing was with Watchmen, the fucking, still my most watched video. You should go check it out from 2019.
The Tulsa Massacre, yeah.
The Tulsa Race Massacre of Black Wall Street. I knew nothing about. I didn't know that happened, and I'm watching it, and I'm just like, wow, this seems very specific, like, because it's the opening scene of the fucking show, and I was like, so specific and fucking harrowing, and I like kind of had a feeling. I looked it up, I was like, holy shit, this was real. Then that's what inspired me to make that video, in fact, because I was just kind of blown away by that shit.
My moment where I became, I mean, obviously, like, it's a learning curve that you go on, but my moment where I basically decided to become like a white black radical was when I learned about the FBI and the CPD murdering Fred Hampton. That's because that's closer to where I live, and I was like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Yes. Did they kill him in his bed?
Allegedly he was like resting in his bed, and they fired, like, I think it was at least 100, might be multiple hundreds of rounds, like, through the wall. They alleged that they thought somebody started shooting, but they had a really hard time evidencing that any bullets came out of the room, only that they had fired a bunch in.
Yeah.
I feel terrible because I don't remember her name from 2020, but there was that woman that got shot in her bed.
Breonna Taylor?
Yes, thank you. Shit.
That was so crazy because they didn't identify themselves.
No, it was a no-knock warrant, and they fired into the room without any, like they had no idea if she had a weapon or not because they just started firing. So, yeah,
crazy shit. So I got this here. It's a couple minutes long. I think it's probably good to set the stage. We haven't had anybody really being a shithead. We got 123 people watching across 5 channels. Please subscribe, whatever channel you're watching on, and then you can check out in the description. There's probably links. Actually, I think there are links to lots of other channels, including the other ones that this is playing on, plus many more, plus everybody that's on the stream right now. All great content. Check us out.
Know and love is being dismantled from within to serve a white nationalist agenda. If you want to understand why the Trump administration is pushing bans, freezes, and rollbacks at breakneck speed, then you need to understand the difference between white supremacy and white nationalism.
Are these the neighbors that you want in your city? No.
The email messages from 2015 and 2016 show Miller's support of white.
I feel like Stephen Miller should have more empathy for minorities because he was the only Nazi vampire where he grew up.
He liked sundown towns for a very different reason. That's the only time he could come out.
Sorry.
that was smart.
Nationalist websites and ideologies.
When white supremacy is challenged by the idea of a multiracial nation, an idea where we all move forward together, what we see as the reaction to that is the rise of white nationalism.
Eric Ward is the executive vice president of Race Forward, and he's a leading expert on the rise of white nationalism in America. He told me that white supremacy is best described as a belief, an assumption that white people are superior and therefore will always be at the top of society.
You've been raised all of your life to believe that white people are superior in every way.
But if white supremacy is a belief or assumption, then white nationalism takes it further. It's an active mission, a commitment to maintain that dominance at all costs.
White nationalism seeks to remove all minorities, particularly religious and racial minorities, from the United States and to establish an all-white nation.
These people are deeply paranoid about losing their chokehold on power and believe that DEI and immigration and aid to foreign countries are a threat to their vision of a country that is for white people.
You will not replace us! You will not replace us!
And it is absolutely the driving ideology behind some of Trump's most nonsensical policy decisions.
He has come out of the gate with a racial agenda, not an economic agenda.
At the end of the day, Donald Trump is attempting to distract from the real problems that all of us are facing in our society, whether it is struggling to pay rising housing costs, if it is our families going bankrupt over health care, the inability to take care of our grandparents and our parents as they age. These are the real issues that we face each and every day. This incoming administration has no solution. And so in the meantime, what they seek to do is to distract us, and they're distracting us by turning us against one another.
White nationalism is a zero-sum game. For one group to win, the others must lose. And it may have found its most powerful ally in Donald Trump.
I mean, look, this was made at the very beginning of the administration. I think it's unfair of them. They didn't give him a chance. You know, they don't know what he was going to do. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he could be way more racist than that.
Right.
Just look.
I mean, it's not like he fucking just decided to, you know, bomb a country without any kind of congressional approval or anything. Or, you know, start plucking people off the streets because, yeah,
Yes.
I have a video about that as well.
Yeah,
but
this is kind of the quick way of like,
yes,
understanding
exactly.
it.
Yep. I mean, you can be a white supremacist and not even engage politically, basically.
Yeah, and in my video, I point out you don't even have to be an American.
True.
Yeah.
Like you can be from
you
another
have to be white.
country and
You
still.
can be Eric July.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One of the things that reminds me of, and I think I brought it up a couple of weeks ago, but I get that weird kind of vibe every now and again on certain comments Critical Drinker makes, where he, whenever anything is set in the past, well, besides that obvious one, whenever anything is set in the past, he will always denigrate their intelligence as if like we're smarter now than we ever have been. And this sort of ahistorical idea that now white people are the most intelligent on the planet and always will be and always have been, and it's just rubbish. I don't know if you guys know a lot about the history of Spain. I would assume not, but at one time most of the country was Muslim because the Muslims came up through North Africa, and they were about 200 years in advance of the white people. The sorts of things that the technologies that they were bringing in, they were at least 200 years ahead of us, and the archaeology supports that. And then the Christians came in and killed them all, and at that time, weirdly, despite the fact that they had basically invaded Spain, the Christian and Muslim population cohabited, lived together fairly peacefully. And then the Christians came in and crusaded them, and there's stories like that all over. The history of Chinese science basically invented everything for 1,000 years until they were overtaken by a really weird thing, which was that they didn't use glass. And a lot of scientific experiments needed glass. So something like this, where he says, and it's, I mean, there's so many dog whistles there. You can't, it's almost,
it's nonsensical.
But because I tell you,
yeah,
one thing he doesn't mention there is in English museums, there's a lot of Scottish artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
So why were they being preserved by the English? Will? Were they because people
look,
like him couldn't be trusted?
As someone who is of Scotch and Irish descent, I can say we are fucking savages, you know. Yeah, like
I mean,
this right here. So I mean, yes, it was weird that he mentioned that because it's weird because it is a nonsensical ideology. It is a nonsensical frame of mind. It doesn't make any sense. It is rooted in fear, and the fear is what drives. You know, it's you know, there's some kind of psychological thing I don't fucking quite understand with any type of far right.
I mean, it's like a mix of like fear of losing power and like some other plea to like, you know, the history of your community or whatever. Like, I think because if you look back historically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think that Italians and Irish people were considered white when they first came to America.
No,
they were not considered to be white people. So the idea of what white is has changed over time. It's not even consistent.
Whiteness isn't really a thing. It's just, you know, it's just not. I don't identify with being white other than just like, oh, look, my skin color's lighter than some other people's. That's it.
Right.
You know, you have to kind of
things-
build it in your imagination. Other than that, if you want to consider
There's
yourself
no
white.
such thing as white culture, and there now has been. There's not even such a thing as like a national culture. There's a national identity, but there's no national culture, because if you go to any country besides America, none of those countries looked like that 2,000 years ago.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I
Or-
think there's a white culture. Bionicles, Dave and Buster's, citing Wikipedia.
Fuck yeah, Hooters.
Really?
Citing-
Taking your
Oh,
children to Hooters? That's white culture.
Doesn't
I mean,
doesn't
yeah.
Bionicles come from the proud Viking tradition though?
Oh, I mean,
NASCAR. Come on now.
They're probably
I would say
manufactured in China or
NASCAR. Well,
something.
to be honest, I think the one thing that white culture has specific to the United States is gun culture. I think that's probably a real
Is what? I didn't hear you.
gun culture, like the
Gun-
idea
oh, yeah.
of like. But again, I don't think that's specific to all white people. It's just a
No, again,
Well,
that's
what I just
specifically
found out
the
recently is
US.
in America, Hispanic people in many federal documents are considered.
yeah.
white.
There is a yes. When I looked it up yesterday, or when I made that video, I actually had to look up the information. White people in America include Hispanic white people.
That's why if you ever fill out some kind of form and it says Hispanic non-white, you know what I mean, or like something
So
like that.
that would be like people from Mexico or places that are not where you can't pass as a white person, basically.
Yeah, man. 2A. Fuck yeah.
Probably,
Exactly, dude. We're
probably
gonna need.
people from Spain as well.
Yeah.
People from Spain would probably be considered Hispanic white.
I
but
do
a
know
lot
that
of-
in Florida, a lot of people from Cuba consider themselves to be white Americans.
I wanted to add something to what you guys were saying earlier.
Yeah,
Actually.
yeah,
And
go ahead.
Dane, would you mind putting that critical drinker post back up? Because I think this is really interesting. And a couple things have been said. I'd like to start off just by noting that the implication here, and of course the critical drinker is from the UK. The implication here being that the white people from the UK were better stewards of African artifacts than the Africans. Does he know about how British explorers treated Egypt and some of the tombs there? They were
he
like
doesn't know anything.
they were
think
harvesting mummies and like using them as like teas. They ate them. It's crazy. Like,
That's crazy.
yeah.
It isn't even a racism thing
They
though.
came up with stuff about mummies coming alive and haunting them because they were fucking they probably had some kind of parasite in their brain. No, like
These dudes were breaking shit for fun.
I don't think that you can. I don't think it's possible to be this stupid. I really don't. And say this. I think this is intentional. That he kind of worked his way backward from what he wanted to say here. That's just my take on
Well,
it.
yeah.
Oh, of course.
But the funny thing is, it wasn't just other countries we were doing this to. Up until I think the 1800s, if you went to Stonehenge, you could take a little hammer with you and chip a bit of stone off as a souvenir. We weren't protecting our own.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Also, American conservatives are currently trying to sell out our national parks. Like
That's true.
they don't even like our own.
We want
country.
to build affordable housing in the middle of a national park. It's like what?
It's probably gonna be like. Do you guys know about that? That one Koch brother theme park.
No.
No.
I think okay. There's a really good Chapo episode about this for the intrigued, but there is, I think it's one of the Koch brothers has his own Wild West style cowboy town where everybody there is a paid actor paid by him, and all the buildings are like built for his specific enjoyment so that he can ride through there like a cowboy in a film. It's insane. Some people have stupid money. Like that guy's wallet should be confiscated.
It's fucking life.
One thing I'll say about the critical drinker though is that I really think he hates being Scottish. I think he's desperate to be an American, and that the Scottishness that he uses in his videos is just a mask. Because
Do you think that's why I beat up that 11-year-old?
Why he possibly allegedly beat up an 11-year-old? Yes.
Had to throw it out there.
No, but
Well, Ryan, you were also saying this isn't like necessarily just racist, right? You were going to say something else about this.
Yeah. There's an entire history of, and this isn't just British people either. We didn't start appreciating our history, our archaeology, until realistically the 1960s or 70s. There were earlier movements, but we were so bad at archaeology that archaeologists because it wasn't a profession. They would dig stuff up out of the ground and then just take it home and have it sitting on their mantelpiece for the rest of their lives. So we used to go around the world nicking stuff because it looked pretty. And that's why it ended up in the museums. There was no intention of protecting it for future generations.
It was just the ownership of it to show off, like, you have this pretty thing or whatever.
Yeah, look at where because it was called the Grand Tour. You would go around Europe, basically taking whatever you wanted.
It's like bringing home a little shot glass or a T-shirt, like,
yes,
know, yeah,
exactly like that. Yeah, and that happened in this country as well. Up until like 1900, it was believed that like our castles and all of our historic monuments should return to nature, and nature should reclaim them. And there was no hint of that was like the fashion. The fashion was let nature overgrow them. They look very pretty that way, and that's why a lot of Victorian people built fake castles in the back gardens.
That's crazy.
Yeah, something really intriguing. A lot of these guys, and this kind of connects it back to the Islamophobia angle, but this is true of Africa as well as places like Spain. There's a really consistent and interesting feature of mosques. Sometimes you get cathedrals that are kind of like this, but they're designed to sort of funnel sound in a certain way. So they create certain kinds of echoes. I would really encourage you guys to look up like mosques, like famous mosques in Africa, because they're architecturally super fascinating. They don't look like much at first, but once you realize what they're doing with a lot of that space and sound and architecture, it's deeply fascinating. American Protestants could never, like literally, I don't think ever once. But yeah.
I just want to point out that I did this just now. I said, okay, I'm gonna look this up. And you're right, they look pretty neat. Let me pull this shit out of here so I can actually share another thing. Some West African castles, okay? And I want to just show you how close to fucking racism we are at all times. Like just like disgusting memes. Okay.
Oh God, no.
You know? And it's just fucking all over. Oh, look at that.
Wait until this is all AI.
That's on.
Oh yeah.
Which, by the way, I was thinking about this yesterday, and it like clicked for me. The reason why I like viscerally hate so many of the people defending like generative AI in the arts, even the people who are like, well, the real problem is capitalism. I disagree. And like, here's why: because the real problem with stealing like African artifacts is that it like removes people from their culture, and it like is kind of offensive to human culture. You know, like people should be able to connect with each other about their culture. They should be able to sort of grow in concert with each other.
Do you think there's
Anything
a bit of
that
jealousy
makes that more difficult is
there,
bad.
like from like white people that other people have culture and there's none existing for white
Well, I mean,
people?
yeah, I was gonna say, what do you expect from a nation that was fucking built on just like, hey, natives, this is ours now. Here's some fucking disease.
A white person only really lacks culture if they're absolutely fucking determined to be white. Like, obviously I am white, but like if I want to think about like my cultural background, I can think of a lot, you know. I can think about other aspects of my identity. I can think about being queer. I can think about where I'm from.
They don't surround just being white, right? I mean, that's the whole point. Right?
But then also my ethnicity and the nationalities of the people who kind of built the lives of my family here in America, Irish immigrants and German immigrants, you know. Like I can think of like my cultural background. But also a lot of culture is what you do and what you connect with.
I will say this, like I went down the rabbit hole of like following my family line all the way back to where we were from, and it gets kind of muddy. But prior to coming over through New York, back, you know, during that era, my family was mostly Scot-Irish. That was like the majority of my family was from there.
Same.
So prior to coming to America, there's almost no online records of my family. I would have to go to where I was from and literally walk the streets and look up all of this there to find out anything else about my family. But the reason why I stumbled upon the fact and why I mentioned it earlier is that Irish people and Italian people were not considered white is when my family came over, they would have not have been considered white.
Oh, and you mentioned that earlier, and I meant to say about that. actually, funny thing about that. So like, you hear people like Matt Walsh talk about like Anglo-Saxon culture a lot. He's kind of mixing a lot of stuff together. That's really more of an idea about culture than it is like a single distinct culture. But something interesting about that, some founders in America felt a similar kind of way, and they even thought and wrote about how they thought the Germans were too swarthy and they had a lower culture. Like their brows showed a bad, like it was a sign of bad breeding, you know. It's just one of those things where it's like, it is about power. It's about believing that somebody has to be on the bottom, and the goal of society is to not be that guy.
I wonder if they knew where the Anglo-Saxons came from.
Well, that's so fascinating. So I actually, this is getting into, I mean, sorry, I'm like autistically ranting about my special interest here. I studied medieval literature, and something that's really funny about English history that, of course, if you're from England, you would know perfectly well, is that actually there's this king that I think the general consensus is that he was previously considered like a mythological figure, but they now think he really did exist, called King Vortigern. Sometimes he appears in like Arthurian legend, but he's understood to be a real person who actually, when the Romans pulled out of Britain, the Britons were like, oh shit, now we don't have like legionnaires defending us. And so they were like, hey, other groups of people should like come here and defend us. And then other groups of people like the Angles and the Saxons, and I think the Jutes as well, some of them like basically like sellswords, they showed up and they were like, well, why would we why would we defend you when we can just conquer you? Which of course then in many cases they did, except for where I think contemporary Wales is, or somewhere around there.
Well, the story goes that the Anglo-Saxons pushed the Celtic people that were here originally either into Wales, Cornwall, Scotland, or Ireland. But I think they've done the DNA on that now, and they've had to revise that because it turns out that we all just mixed, and that while there was less mixing in those areas, we actually just lived. It's really weird. It's really hard to get your head around because it's about 1,000 years of history that. That because the Roman documentation was great. After that, that's why it's called the Dark Ages. Is because nobody wrote anything down for about 500 years. But
and we've started to find out. I think now they tend to call it the medieval era, and not the Dark Age. I had a medievalist professor who was like very strict about this. She said, "Don't call it the Dark Ages because we started finding more and more information about it."
Yeah, it's Bronze, Iron Age, early medieval. Yeah, it's a lot, but yeah.
Plus, we haven't even seen the Dark Ages yet. You know?
I think this comment was for me about, like I was saying, I'd have to go over there to like find information about my family. When I did digging, and I had to look up the year again, there was something that happened in 1922 where a lot of churches and documents were burned in the area where my family came from. So a lot of that history is either very scattered or it was destroyed in the 1920s.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You have to be really lucky to trace your family history because fires are common. Flooding was common back then. Flooding's still common now. So yeah, you could easily lose the church records for due to a fire or flooding or some other disaster.
It was the Four Courts fire during the Irish Civil War is when that happened.
I think that's quite a famous one. I think, yeah. So yeah, it's a tough thing, but yeah, it's weird that Matt Walsh sort of clings to this Anglo-Saxon idea when it's ahistorical. There's no truth to it.
Dane, did you have more like stuff lined up here?
Oh yeah, I have plenty of stuff. So we haven't even got into your video yet, but to kind of get into their talking points before we can kind of branch out and look at what those support, what those are about.
Yeah. Talking points that do not actually address any of the issues that they're bringing up here. So let's watch this clip, and I'm going to have fun with this one.
Oh, gosh, no.
This fucking retard. Wow. The millionaire preaching about billionaires.
The millionaire preaching about billionaires.
Okay, so I mean, you said it perfectly here, but I just wanted to add while I was watching it the first one, I was like, I hope he says this. The difference between $1 million and $1 billion, are these guys fucking just brain rotten? Like to think that, I mean, a millionaire, that's a lot of money. I mean, any one of us would want it for sure. But like compared to a billionaire,
Yeah, do they know how much a billion is? Like if you look at it,
it's not even a real amount of money. It's just fucking
Right.
theoretical, basically.
Right. Billionaires are like one person having billions of dollars. Like that's millionaires to billionaires would be like somebody with a 40-hour-a-week job looking at somebody on public assistance. Like that's the difference in what that would be.
Or to put it another way, would be like one of Gary's fans looking to Gary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's probably close to that.
I mean, let's be straight up. Like this kind of bigotry that is definitely, whether directly or just simply influenced by the political far right in the country and the world, is designed to separate. Is designed to make it impossible to have a united working class and have solidarity, so that we can actually achieve some sort of decent life with integrity and health, and not fucking work and break our bodies for not enough pay,
right?
And then we can take care of ourselves and our family and stuff like that. That's what this is about.
It's attempting to other Mark Ruffalo because he's a millionaire. What's he got to complain about? Whereas they will back other millionaires and billionaires to the hilt. And the fact of the matter is that Mark Ruffalo's got a proven track record of doing this throughout his entire career. Long before he joined the MCU, long before he was a known name, he's always protested about injustices.
He's been kind of a lefty for a while. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, they did the same thing with Mom Donnie. They just won the primary for New York last night.
Right.
Congratulations on that shit. But they did that. There was a Forbes article, I think it was. It was like, oh, he's supposed to give people all this stuff, but he was born, to a rich family and stuff. It's like, yeah, like FDR was a fucking bum before the New Deal or something. You know what I mean?
I mean, didn't they elect Trump?
Right.
Isn't Trump elected by them? Like, the guy he's like a baby with a silver spoon in his fucking mouth. Like,
right. Well, also, like, Trump voters love to say that they like Trump because he's not a politician. He's literally a politician. Like, he literally is a politician. So if you're supporting a politician against other politicians, why can't you support a rich guy against other rich guys?
It's almost like they attack somebody for anything that they possibly can, right?
The other thing they say is that Trump must be a genius because he's so successful. So Mark Ruffalo's successful, so he must be a genius as well.
True.
True.
Yeah, I mean conservatism has fallen really far. It used to be you'd hear from like big conservative public intellectuals about the benefits of the theoretical benefits of stuff like Reaganomics, where if you're wealthy enough, you can create jobs for other people. And part of the problem with being a billionaire is most of that money is just in stuff that you own. So like it just means you control a lot of society. It doesn't mean that you have a bunch of money or that you have one or two if you have like a lot, like, I don't know, like a really expensive home and a bunch of really expensive cars that maybe you could theoretically drive one like every week or something, like a different day every week or whatever. Like, like that's a lot of wealth, but it's not like I own an entire industry wealth. It's not like there's entire states of the union that I effectively control entire elements of their industry there. It's just a very different thing. And I just kind of feel like also it is hypocritical to object to Mark Ruffalo because he's a millionaire criticizing a billionaire, because his whole perspective would be first of all, a lot of really wealthy people have inherited wealth. They're not wildly successful artists and actors necessarily. And also maybe a millionaire thinks a billionaire has too much money, just like some of these guys who have way more money than most of the people in their audiences think that maybe Mark Ruffalo has too much money.
Houses and vehicles cost, if you guys want. Weird, but
a real good example is all you have to do is go back to 2017 to look at the Trump tax cuts, right? The corporate tax rate went from 35% to 20%, something like that. And instead of investing that money back into the country and expanding businesses, they basically just invested in stock. So all of that savings they made did not affect anybody in this country. It just made them richer.
Anybody that still even puts any kind of faith in the fucking trickle down theory is just kind of brain warped.
But that's kind of what these guys are saying here is that that Mark Ruffalo was receiving money from these guys, so he should shut up and just toe the line. Basically.
Well, and that's what I was saying earlier, by the way. That sparked me to think, interesting that's their perspective, right? Like, you're receiving money from your higher ups, so you should only serve their bottom line, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But also wanted to say you are welcome. We welcome any and all who are all about helping everybody.
Yeah,
Honestly,
shout out. Actually,
that wasn't an unusual position. That like 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
They've actually, so they talk about the like, not you, John, here, but like a lot of the people with the talking points that are anti-socialist or anti-government programs or anti-helping poor people or whatever, they have twisted what the Bible means to fit whatever their narrative is, which goes against their concept that the Bible itself always means the same thing. Because it's changed. Their position has changed on this.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of conservatives find Christianity useful because they find the idea of God as a moral authority useful, mainly because it gives them the ability to tell other people what to do, because their ideology is based around telling people to do what they're told because they exist in like a lower class or lower order in society. And they admit this all the time. If you listen to Christian apologists who are conservative, they tend to say things like, well, if we don't have this, then everybody will just be doing whatever they want, and it's like, well, I mean, better, I would say, but perhaps better that more people
how
should
will I know
follow
I'm
their
better
moral
than people?
intuitions.
We don't have this arbitrary hierarchy.
Right.
But the one thing it says clearly, and the one thing that conservatives cannot worm their way out of, and so try to avoid it as much as possible, is that it literally says you cannot get into heaven if you're rich.
Right.
You cannot go to heaven if you're rich.
Yeah.
They do have a counter for that, unfortunately.
They'd have a
Yeah,
counter.
but it's not
They've had
true.
enough time to come up with a counter for everything.
Because the rich, like, what is it, the wealth doctorate, like the preachers that preach about tithing and stuff, have come up with a way around that one. They've come up with their own excuse for it, and everybody.
Even Catholics have a thing about that because the
prosperity gospel.
Jesus, when they're flipping those tables because he was pissed, they'd be like, "Yeah, because it was the Jews." That's what they'd say.
Well, I mean, trickle down economics is Reaganomics. I mean, it's all the same thing.
Yeah. So, trickle down economics is the pejorative term.
Yeah, which is the true term. I would never want to give credit.
It's a very literal visualization.
Nothing trickles down. It's like there's no leaky faucet. It's all.
I see Welfare Queen posted under all kinds of posts and shit, and that's literally just a fucking made up Reaganomics, Reagan era fucking. It's not a real thing. It's a myth.
Actually, super funny thing. Sorry, I'm gonna be like insane about this for 5 seconds.
Okay.
So a lot of the Welfare Queen stuff was also heavily promoted during the Clinton era. And the reason why is super interesting. It's because it was a way that conservatives of that era were using here in America to rhetorically attack the way that like certain programs were for the public good were helping women who leave their husbands operate as single mothers, which is also why you sometimes still do and used to hear a ton of stuff about single motherhood, that the government was subsidizing single motherhood. And it's why they got so obsessed with divorce and stuff. I mean, there was always a bit of that.
I mean, let's be honest, the breathing room between conservative and liberal in the 90s wasn't all that great. The Clinton era.
Well, the Clintons were like young conservatives at one point, right. So that's that section of the Democratic Party. Yeah,
a Democrat from Arkansas is basically a Republican everywhere else. But yeah, let's continue on here. See what they have to say. Maybe they say something enlightening.
You shouldn't criticize the rich person if you're rich yourself. What a dumb argument. Let's go.
Not the immigrants, it's the billionaires. Well, we're seeing what's happening. First of all, we're understanding
pause it for a second.
Immigrants.
Can you pause?
Oh, that's fucking nerdotic. No, I'm not listening
for
to
a
you.
Second. Oh my god. Who pays his salary?
The billionaires.
But who cares? Who cares? You shouldn't criticize the rich person. They pay your bills. This argument is weak.
I mean, in many cases, fucking people are, if you go up the fucking chain high enough, there's billionaires are paying salaries. You know what I mean? So it's all just whatever. Once again, whatever they need to say at any given moment to serve their point, they're gonna fucking say that thing because their audiences generally are cowed and they're not gonna think past their own nose. Just thought terminating cliche after thought terminating cliche.
Are they genuinely telling their audience you shouldn't be able to criticize your boss? Is that what they're saying? Or the place you work? Are they literally saying? I mean, that's that. If you want, you want an example,
it makes sense because a lot of these guys are employers. They pay people to do things.
Also, it's anti-free speech. I mean, these guys are supposed to be free speech guys. This is an anti-free speech talking point.
But I mean, if you do want a crystal example of white culture, it's complaining about your job.
That's true.
Really quick about that I think is so interesting about that is just the I just had this in my head and I just lost it. God damn it. Ibram X. Kendi's brother works for YouTube. These guys get their money through YouTube. They can no longer criticize DEI or CRT on this logic.
I mean, Kendi is basically DEI personified, right? Like he's the guy.
He's the GOAT. If anybody wants a really good argument for some of those programs, you can read his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, because he's really well read. Lays it out very simply.
Onward.
It's just weak. Getting a paycheck from someone doesn't mean you owe them silence or loyalty because of your job. He's not a servant of the billionaires. He's not their slave, has to do what they say just because they write checks for him. Like, he's a worker. People are allowed to speak out against unfair conditions and systemic issues. Even if their paycheck comes from the system they are criticizing. This is a deflection from real issues. Saying they pay your bills is a way to avoid, like, actually engaging with somebody who's criticizing a rich person. Because these guys will criticize billionaires all day. Their entire issue with a lot of things going on in Hollywood has to do with these extremely rich people, these extremely rich organizations that they say are paying people for diversity in media. That's their argument.
I want to point something out here. So this is an article from a very reputable source. So ultra wealthy millionaire and ultra wealthy billionaire. The words have no meaning apparently on that Park Place. But also, so it's one thing to criticize wealth and power. It's another to do so while lounging on a $90 million fortune. So when I looked up Mark Ruffalo's wealth just a moment ago, most sources, almost all of them but one that I saw on the first page of Google anyway, are between 30 and 35 million.
Yeah, 90 is the high end. It's the top end.
Says 90, and so clearly they went with the one that says 90.
I mean, even the reputable outlets go somewhere between 50 and 65. So 90 is like completely outside of the bubble.
Yeah, that high end thing though, there's because I listen to radio shows in the UK and a couple of comedians, and they always laugh about how much they are apparently worth. Like, these are people who aren't millionaires, and yet some of these websites say that they've got like personal fortunes of 35 million or whatever, and it's there's no way of knowing. That's literally unknowable. There's absolutely no way of knowing.
It's all speculation based on just a bunch of like number crunching.
Yeah.
Huh.
Marvin Montanaro? I don't think I've
seen
I'm
looking him up right now,
before,
but we'll on the video.
Is that another pen name for someone? Now that somehow that switched. Now, if you criticize someone who makes more money than you, they pay your bills, it's like a bad faith argument. It's bad faith. It assumes money equals some sort of like moral immunity. And that silence is the price of his employment or their subjugation to rich people. That's not how free, fair society works. And it's an issue with moral consistency from these guys. They argue that rich people control too many things in this country, but for some reason, when Mark Ruffalo speaks up about it, then all of a sudden he should shut up because they pay his bills. That's such a bad faith fucking argument.
Yeah, okay, just checking.
and yeah, bear in mind, this is a rich, pretentious arsehole lecturing everyone that is like, it's the rich people that are the problem.
Okay, is he wrong? Is he wrong? This is Shad, you, Gary, fucking Az, Ryan Cannell, like all of you guys criticize rich people for injecting money into media for diversity. So,
Can we pause it here
is it
real
a
quick?
blanket statement that now all billionaires are virtuous and that they?
I just want to say about Shad making that comment. Shad is probably the biggest morally bankrupt person in that entire space. Shad, I don't know if you guys know about the Shadlands. Shad owns an incredible amount of land, which he intended to develop to literally build a castle. And he has effectively like an estate. The idea that this guy would call somebody else, first of all, pretentious is incredibly ironic, but also calling anyone a rich asshole is crazy. He first of all, he's a business owner. Second of all, he has an estate. He wants to build a castle on it. Like, he's taken videos of himself, and the idea is that everything around him is his land. There's like hills and rivers. It's nuts. This is a guy who's like, other people are wealthy and pretentious, bro. Like, I make everything that I make as a one-person team in a single room, you know?
But isn't it also funny that literally Mark Ruffalo and Marvel by proxy pays these guys bills? Like, that's how they make their money, is criticizing them. So they are rich assholes criticizing who they call is a rich asshole for criticizing somebody else who is a rich asshole. It's like, it is Inception.
Yeah, also Shad's a Mormon, and the Mormon church is like incredibly financially corrupt. So
Not just financially. I've seen documentaries.
I mean, morally, like they bang kids and stuff a lot around there.
I mean, the idea that Shad would call anybody else pretentious, the guy who thinks he's a brilliant writer because his fans like his books,
and an artist by typing stuff into AI prompts.
A lot of his have you seen the video where he reads reviews for his books and he tries to really quickly scroll past the negative ones from his fans? Incredible stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, his argument is clearly he's a good writer because fans of his content have told him he's a good writer.
This is an important distinction. Very good.
It is.
Co-host of the Fabcast on Sunday on Actual Fandom. It is a distinction. It's not like Bob Iger is writing checks out of his own fucking account. You know what I mean?
No, Bob Iger is actually cashing checks for himself and putting them into the stock market. So,
if Mark Ruffalo criticized Kathleen Kennedy, do you guys think that they would call him?
They would support him. No, there's proof of them doing that. They flip flopped on people before.
Yeah.
Like,
so just scrolling through this Marvin Montanaro's Twitter real quick. There's a few things we could talk about, but I don't want to distract. Maybe we'll do that another time, or Friday. I'll do it on real quick. May 21st. He says, "I'm watching John Wick for the first time, and I wonder how many times this guy has written about the lack of, masculine, badass males in movies these days, right?"
You ignore one of the most modern examples of that.
John Wick, of which there's fucking 4 and a prequel and a TV show now. I'm just saying. Anyway,
which disproves their narrative, which is why he probably has ignored it all this time.
Also, Reacher as well. That's like a big one.
But Reacher had Biden on set the other day.
Well, the Alan Richson, I believe, is the name of the guy who plays Reacher.
He's actually a
like
Christian
kind of a
that stands by.
Christian,
He's like the most awesome based Christian I've ever fucking heard of. Like he's straight up that makes videos shitting on Ted Cruz. Like,
can you imagine Alan Richson meeting Shadiversity? Shad, a guy who complains, like who postures about knowing a ton about combat, who complains about a lack of masculinity in culture, who has made in his own videos excuses and actually called people, I don't know if he said ableist, but that was basically the general thrust of his accusation, because they were saying that he doesn't know that much about combat because he's really out of shape. And he was like, "Oh, I have a heart condition, And it's like, well, bro, it's
such a good
I could have gone pro, but for my bum knee.
That surprised me, that impression. It's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, me and Bob of the Old Ways did that video one time where we looked at an Endymion video where he uses Alan Richson as like the
alpha Christian male, and he, all this woke mind virus. He wouldn't, that's why Reacher's awesome show, because Alan Ritchson's a blah 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 Christian, and it's like, and of course cut to Alan Ritchson ranting against the word woke for like 8 minutes straight.
I mean, I can't believe he didn't get more flack than other than off.
We
you
really
guys
tried,
for that, because he was using clips without sound and saying the exact opposite thing that
Of
Alan
what he-
Ritchson was saying, which is just bizarre. But have you all seen Shadowversity's true real combat film that he made, the short film?
I have
It's
not.
hilarious.
Wait, he made a
made
short film?
He made a short film about him and one of his pals doing a sword fight and making it accurate, and it looks like dog shit.
Yeah.
And you
There's
think, and you watch it and you think, well, that's why they don't make it real in the films, because it looks awful. Two fat, sweaty men, gently touching.
It's funny.
tips.
I think we're cutting out there.
Sorry.
Sure, it's okay. All right.
Yeah, sorry, my connection's dropping a little bit. It's been happening a lot over here.
I don't know that word. What is that word?
I wanted to note something in chat, if
I don't
my
know.
connection stays stable.
Sure.
Which was Simon said, even if he wouldn't be out of shape, his footwork just sucks. You can't even call it footwork since Shad never moves. Yeah, it is kind of funny for a guy to like. He just doesn't look like he walks anywhere, and like fair play. Like I have friends who will say things like, I'm a fat man and I'm, perfectly happy repping that. And I'm like, good for you, dude, Like I think people should be comfortable in their own bodies, but critically Shad doesn't. And I think that the way that he talks down to people is kind of the real issue about it. And like, I don't know, it just kind of bugs the hell out of me. He kept getting, was it last year? He kept getting into beefs with like other sword tubers like Scholagrim and Sellsword Arts.
Like year before that, I'm not sure, but yeah, he kept showing up pretty bad from what I can tell. Bob Fieldway's experience in martial arts and weapons and whatnot, and he's told me plenty of times that he's pretty obviously kind of just playing it by ear.
Well, as far as I know, Shad doesn't really film himself like sparring in any dedicated capacity that much. Whereas like the Sellsword Arts guys have like a dojo and they do that all the time. So I just kind of feel like, I don't know.
Wishing one hand and Shad in the other. That's good. Well, so there was this also. I mean, this shows what a fucking contrarian shithead he is.
Embrace tradition.
Embrace tradition.
Embrace tradition. Embrace tradition.
That's the thing.
So this is whenever he was, in doing his AI art adventure, just getting launched on that, right? And then there's this clip of him embrace tradition. After
I mean, looking back at this is really bad art. Like this AI art is awful.
Cool.
I mean, it was bad
Apparently,
then, but it's like
him trying to model it after his wife, I guess, is what I heard.
Yeah, her face is on Supergirl here.
It's weird.
Damn. I'd be filing divorce papers.
And then there was eventually there was like a stream where he did with his brother where they were drawing or something. There was this fucking super awkward moment where he was like essentially saying, you don't even need skill, or this is just as good. You can be just as good. And his brother, who actually is a good artist, it was like, no. He was trying not to fucking shit on him on a live stream, but it was pretty clear he was.
Yeah, I've seen that clip. It's even worse than that because he keeps insisting that my art, is at a professional level.
Yeah.
Okay. And like his brother keeps going, well, I mean, because his brother is a professional like visual artist, like he can really draw. Right. And Shad, like he said in one of his AI art videos that I watched, like the reason why he doesn't practice drawing is because he's not interested. And I think that's most people. Like if you are not interested in something, you won't practice. Like I didn't stick with the guitar for basically that reason. I just didn't feel it.
His brother, like they say that 10,000 hours, right, become a master of something, and maybe not literally, but enough fucking time that it you earn it, and the work comes through and shows. So somebody, you know, it's just fucking insulting to. I can only imagine his brother was really trying to restrain himself in that moment, right? Just yeah. Let's get back to this though.
Since they pay people's bills, or since
they haven't even started bashing immigrants yet.
They make a lot of money, that somehow they're morally, that they're completely immune to any sort of like criticism or anything like that, that all of that goes out the door. I can't even believe that you're making these statements. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Doesn't he fucking hate the rich immigrant Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sure he does.
Right. So
you know, I don't remember what your argument is here, Eric. So hopefully I don't step on it or repeat it, but like, it's just bizarre that they, you know, it's the same thing as like Eric July's audience being like, you can't criticize him because, you know, you're pro black people or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, there's this one person who is an example of some demographic. So therefore you have to be pro every single one of them, no matter what they say or believe in or do. It's bizarre. And it's just dishonest. No? Anybody?
no, I mean, I talk about it a little bit towards the end. I think I bring up like the idea that a immigrant can't lobby for policies that hurt immigrants and stuff like that. Like those are things that can happen. So like that's like gay people can be anti-gay. It's true. You know what I mean?
There's plenty of them.
I mean, I don't know if Mark Ruffalo said anything specific against Elon Musk, but I'm sure he doesn't hate Elon Musk because he's an immigrant.
Right.
He hates him because he's an asshole.
Exactly. Yeah. Start with this one. Criticism of bad behavior doesn't mean hatred of identity. Like they don't hate Elon Musk or they speak out against Elon Musk because he's an immigrant. Criticizing Elon Musk isn't the same as being anti-immigration. That's just not the same thing. People are critiquing his actions, business practices, his public influence, what he's been doing with Trump, not his immigration status. That's not, none of the arguments against Elon that I have heard other than joking about, you know, deport him or whatever, which happened after all of this mass deportation stuff, has been about his immigration status. It is criticizing, like you can advocate for fair immigration while still holding individual people accountable for how they behave, you know, once they're here, no matter where they're from. Advocating for immigration rights means protecting people from discrimination, legal persecution, inhumane treatments, citizens being picked up and locked up saying they're immigrants, they don't belong here, when that's not happening. That's part of the argument about immigration rights, is actually also for U.S. citizens. Not giving them a pass from public scrutiny just because they're immigrants. I think you have to understand that. Elon Musk is a powerful billionaire. He just happens to be an immigrant as well. And criticism of him usually targets power, not his immigration status. Someone being a part of a marginalized group, like Elon, would be like an immigrant. I say, look, I'm going to just put it out there, like he is an immigrant, we get it, so that would be part of that group. Doesn't mean that that person can't contribute to impression or injustice or discrimination against their own community. Like a woman can be sexist towards other women. A gay CEO can still exploit workers, and you could criticize them on that. That doesn't mean that you're anti-gay. An immigrant billionaire can still advocate for policies and behaviors that hurt others. Not like there's no conflict there. Being an immigrant doesn't erase someone's responsibility or make them immune to critique. Like it just doesn't. It's a dumb argument. Again, bad faith.
Is there I mean there's, you know, Quisling applies generally, but like is there something specific?
I mean pick me is kind of the term that everybody uses. Like that's just, I mean I know that isn't specific to gay or trans people, but that is sort of the term that I hear the most often, is like the pick me gay or the pick me trans person.
Yeah.
Quisling.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Quisling is the one.
That is a good one, yeah.
You know, Ernst Röhm comes to mind, you know.
I love that meme. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
I post that all the time. The Ernst Röhm Award for Excellence in Collaboration.
Ironically, there's a lot of gay people that live local to me and trans people who have supported conservative stuff, and they've gotten very quiet over the last couple months. So I guess they realized they fucked up too little too late, like JoJo says.
I don't understand how that could even happen. I don't understand how you can be so up your own ass or something that you just I can't believe the leopards ate my face meme, right?
Yeah.
log cabin Republicans. I mean, that's
I mean, like, I feel like it's sometimes it's a defense mechanism. I think sometimes marginalized people feel like if they can appeal to white supremacy, they will not be targeted individually. Like, they don't care about their community. They're thinking about just themselves. So they think of it as a defense mechanism. But historically, that's never worked. Like, it's just never worked. All you have to do is look back to any sort of like genocidal situation. You'll see that they still come for you. It just takes a little bit longer.
That's why I always say Ernst Röhm. He's the perfect example.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys who created Nazism. He was a buddy of Adolf Hitler's, and he was a gay guy.
Yeah.
And they built up the Third Reich, and they got into power, and it was all good. And oh wait, he was was he found? Did they ever find him? I don't remember. Did they? Was it officially he was killed, or he just disappeared? I don't remember what happened.
I believe he was killed in the Night of the Long Knives.
There you go. Yep. So just
fun story about that, by the way. When all of those exposés were getting written about Milo Yiannopoulos, one of his passwords on his computer, I believe, was Long Knives. So these dudes know what's in store for them, and they're just like wishing it anyway.
Or he just knows the event and didn't know any details about it, and it's fucking the irony is just.
Oh, he's a Nazi. He knows. There's a 1,000%.
Fair enough. So is this guy.
Oh yeah. I think it's kind of interesting that JDA is pretty much getting exiled from even like the chuddy communities now. Like, people have gotten tired of his flip flopping. Like, one day he's fighting with one of them, one day he's friends with them.
He can't decide if he wants to just go all in on being a Nazi or go in all in on being like a fucking contrarian grifter. It's just like every other day he's changing his mind.
And a lot of people are just finding out that he was like pretending to be a woman online to like.
I'm sorry, hang on.
Romance novels.
Wait a minute.
You don't know about that?
What?
You didn't know that?
No, this is relevant to my interests, huh?
Yeah, so he had a... Do you have a video on it, Dane? Oh, here you go.
So this is some from a few videos of Pillar of Garbage that I compiled in one. We won't watch the whole thing, but it is right here. So. Don't subscribe and get that guy.
John Della Rose is the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction. Wait, no, that's not right. John Della Rose is a YouTuber, Holocaust denier.
Millions of Jews and
yeah, it was probably more like 300,000.
And writer of comic books, regular books, and until recently, of articles for Christo-fascist propaganda platform Bounding into Comics. He's also the writer of this Fandom Pulse article. And this one, and it seems this one, even though it's credited to Daniela Acera. He once accidentally showed himself logged into a Twitter account under that name. But it isn't yet seriously competing.
So there you go.
Yeah, he was on a stream trashing people using Twitter to bookmark stuff, and the name at the bottom of the screen was Daniela Arcera, I think, which is a play on Danielle Steele in Spanish. So, but yeah, so he did that. And I think he's addressed it a little bit here and there because now he's just sort of accepted that people know it was him. But if you go and you read that Twitter account and read some of the stuff that he said under that account, it's very weird. It's like, it reads like all the women that he criticizes. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't the criminals. If you look at the statistics, most of the crimes that are committed in this country are by white people, non-immigrants.
That makes him so mad. That makes him so mad to hear that.
That is just a plain fact. But they're like, they don't like to split the facts that way, so that doesn't go. So I have this quick 30-second thing here that I want to show. That before these guys start calling, because I think Shad maybe goes off on a pretty unhinged fucking, they're all criminals. For one thing, crossing the border is not, it's not.
It's a civil thing. It's not a criminal thing.
Civil offense. So people saying, they're fucking criminals. They need to fucking get deported and shit. It's like, so you think we should expend all of that tax money on just deporting somebody for what is essentially, just jaywalking, more or less. So as you see there, migrants detained by ICE after showing up for their scheduled fucking court hearings. So the people, that like to, say, oh, they just go through the process, they do it the right way, the legal way. These are. Many of them are.
Most of the people they're gathering up are not criminals. They haven't done anything.
But I mean, literally showing up for your point because they are applying for asylum or whatever it is, they're doing it the right way, through like the bureaucracy and legal bullshit. But they're doing it, and then ICE goes, well, that's easy pickings. And and because they have the ability to do that,
they're not going after the worst of the worst. That was the pitch. They were going to go after the worst of the worst. And the thing is, they don't have the capability of doing that. That's the truth. They don't have the capability. So they're going after people who are sitting ducks that are going through a system that is woefully understaffed. They don't have enough judges to do this at a good rate. There's some people who have been waiting here under legal protected status for 2 decades to go in front of a judge just to get their citizenship. They've already done everything. They're just waiting.
Yeah, a lot of speaking, Elon Musk was brought up earlier. These guys love him. And a lot of actual illegal immigration is visa overstays.
Yeah.
Which he did. So I just think that's very interesting.
But I do have to jump out of here. I just realized it's after 7 and I have to work. So
it's because I showed the ICE list, isn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, I got to get out of here. Anyway, but yeah, thanks you guys so much. Always good to see you, Cherry,
Yeah, man.
Ryan.
We will continue checking out your video.
Yeah, go for it. And by the way, you just have to give a shout out all the people that are watching right now, the people on my Debunks channel and everything. You guys are amazing. I have already gone up another almost 500 subscribers in 1 month, and you guys just keep coming through, and it's making the Chuds so mad because they keep having to update their insult in my comment section. You only have X amount of subs, and by the time they come back to the next video, it's another like 300 people. So
subscribe to this man. He's fucking working hard for you.
I'm trying to do like semi-daily videos, so but I do appreciate it. Anyway, good to see everybody. I'm gonna jump out of here.
Later,
have a great night. See you later.
Have a good one. So there's that.
Also, before we move on, I do want to say one more thing about that. About the they should just come here legally thing. When these people enter through legal ports of entry, when they seek asylum legally, they still get detained, and these people are getting detained by ICE when they're showing up for court hearings. They're supposed to get their day in court.
So there is an example that I've found from earlier today. I mean, there's you can, if you just search, you can find. There's so many now. It's fucking tragic. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, there was a 16-year-old kid born and raised in Maine, but he's a Mexican kid. I mean, a Mexican American kid, braces, good-looking, smart kid, plays volleyball, honor student, was on his way to volleyball practice in a carpool with some friends, got pulled over by ICE, spent 6 days in detention. 16 years old with a bunch of grown men, he spoke after he got out finally, and the dude was just expressing all this empathy for the guys that were still in there, like clearly a fucking class act kid. And it's fucking enraging. Just one example will set me off. There's but one today that I found was and not found as in it popped up on YouTube. Man accused of robbing, zip tying a woman while pretending to be ICE in Philadelphia. And now the reason he's able to do that is because they're fucking wearing plain clothes and masks and not fucking identifying themselves. So that's on ICE. They're just fucking, they're the Gestapo at this point. They are, it's fucking upsetting. Anyway. Yeah, there's also that too, right?
And I think I saw the other day that there's 70 or 80 known cases of just American citizens being picked up, born in America. I think and those are the known cases, or the reported cases so far. So they're just picking up people. Brown people is what they're doing.
So here's a bit of a report from just today.
Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We turn now to the immigration crackdown. ICE detentions have reached all-time highs. surpassing 56,000 people, the largest increase are people arrested with no serious criminal history. Nearly a third of ICE detainees have only immigration violations on their record, up from just 6% in January. This is according to data analyst Andrew Kocher. We turn now to just one case out of Southern California. On Saturday, Narciso Barranco was arrested while working as a landscaper at an IHOP in Santa Ana.
¿Por qué le pegas?
We are watching federal agents. The video taken shows 7 federal agents, all masked, pinning 48-year-old Narciso Barranco to the ground, repeatedly punching him in the head before pushing him into an unmarked vehicle. Barranco was born in Mexico, has been in the United States for more than 30 years. He also has 3 sons in the U.S. military, 2 active-duty Marines. One who joins us now is a Marine veteran. Alejandro Barranco was able to see his dad in custody yesterday, days after the arrest, still wearing the same bloodied clothes. We're also joined by Jonathan Hernandez, a council member for the city of Santa Ana, California. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Let's begin with Alejandro.
Sorry, not that many of them. Sorry, this one. Not that many of them because some of them are, most of them are diddling kids.
Also, some of them have been rearrested for other crimes. Yeah.
Like diddling kids.
Good point.
Yeah. Those who burn crosses. Yeah, there's some lyrics about that.
I mean, looking at the shape of them, I'm surprised they managed to leave the IHOP without stopping.
Well, what's kind of bizarre to look at is like, just you can see who some of these people are because there are people that are, working to identify them, because they should be identified. And they in general do have a similar shape going on. Potato. Can you fucking identify this gut? Yeah.
Can you, the country is seeing this horrific video of your dad being beaten, punched in the head by these masked agents. Explain what you understand happened and how he was yesterday when you saw him.
So yesterday when I saw him, he looked beat up. He looked rough. He looked defeated. He was sad. It's just not right the way all this is happening. I think anybody would be scared if they see these guys come up to them masked, not in uniform, guns out. It was bad.
And did your father tell you what they said to him, or as they came up, was this part of a general sweep, or were they specifically just targeting him?
Well, seriously, let's think about the fact that it's a civil offense. Let me look up a list of civil offenses here. Civil offense involved violations of administrative matters. Is the simplest definition. You can be pulled over because your woofers and tweeters violated noise ordinance in your city. So I wonder how many people have been pinned down by 7 or 8 masked guys and punched in the head repeatedly for that. Fucking crazy. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't even have anything to say about that. It's just astonishingly cruel.
True.
And also entirely foreseeable. Like this was a day one thing about the Trump campaign. The way that he fearmongered about Mexicans. It completely foreseeable. I understand, and some of them are now left wing, and that's good for them. I understand that there were people who were taken in by this, but holy shit is all I have to say about that.
Yeah. You know, it's I don't know. Not a lot to say. You just kind of, you know, if you're saying something, you're probably not absorbing it properly, is what I would think. You know, it's you know, I saw somebody say earlier that it's like these YouTubers don't want people of color to be in, you know, stuff that's you know, supposed to be quote unquote supposed to be, you know, all white people or whatever. And it's like that would be one thing, but that's not even true. Because, you know, they do stuff like they went hard after this movie, G20, which is, you know, presumably on some level an original concept with Viola Davis. It was an Amazon movie that literally the only time I ever heard anybody talking about it was them. And they, you know, were railing against it because, you know, she's a black lady and she's the president in that movie and she's being a badass. You know, so it just goes to show that it doesn't matter the context. They're gonna find a racial or a misogyny angle to go after here. Let's see, $5 from AOC Furry Patrol. The Friday Night fan base is serious brain drain. You go to the comments of any Nerdrotic video and it's a sewage plant. It's no surprise F&T is losing viewers. Truly, I mean, yeah, I'll have a video up maybe even today. No, probably I'll say tomorrow. We did a segment a couple weeks ago where we compared. I think it was 2 different channels, forget. But it was like it was 3. So it was Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, and Critical Drinker. We looked at their most recent videos on Ironheart and compared the comment sections just to see who had the, you know, we weren't even looking for racism. We were just like, who has the dumbest comments? Of course, we found racism in various types. You know, there is like some kind of an intelligence distinction. It seems like between the channels. Generally, Geeks and Gamers fans are more openly racist, but also pretty stupid comparatively to the other two. Very stupid. Nerdrotic, you know, they're about in the middle. They're pretty stupid, but they somewhat try to couch their bigotry and other talking points here and there. You know, like Nerdrotic does. It's not very successful. And then Critical Drinkers, you know, they can at least form complete sentences, but usually the you know, the bigotry is peeking out of there too. So that's a fun video. Look forward to you guys seeing that. And that was just, you know, yeah, they're all the same, but at the same time, when you've been doing this shit as long as some of us have, you do see differences in, like, when you cover Jeremy Griggs and then you see the comments that come to that, or you cover the quartering, for example. If anybody's ever covered the quartering and then you see the comments from his fucking audience, holy shit, man. I don't even know how I don't know if they're wiping their own asses or if they're dressing themselves or what. They're fucking, you know, brains are leaking out of their asses.
Based on his recent video, which I think Eric also covered, it seems like some of them have forgotten how to use the computer, so he's hemorrhaging views as well.
True. So let's see. Critical Drinker is a bad producer. You saw the movie? Yeah. In fact.
Can you see now? I'm just pure dog shit. I have to keep you hating things. I have to keep you miserable. I have to stop you enjoying art at all costs, because if I don't, then you won't keep clicking on my slop videos and I won't get any money. I don't care about you. I don't care what shite I pump into the world and into your lives. I just need you to keep clicking like mindless NPC sheep to my generic slop content. Make no mistake, people, I am the enemy. Your enemy. I've proven over years and years I just don't have that essential natural creative element to be a good writer. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the deep, deep root of it all. You see, I've churned out tons and tons of really shitty books, each one written like an embarrassingly generic and cliched movie script. This was my attempt to intentionally write movie scripts, but failed miserably, and nobody went anywhere near them because they were absolutely terrible with terrible writing. I then tried using your money, not my money, your money, to make my own film in another attempt to try and get somewhere in the movie industry. But that was even worse. It was ridiculed by absolutely everyone and anyone who watched it. Even the zeros in my YouTube hug box daren't comment on it. It was diabolically bad. And there it is, people. I want to be mainstream so badly it tears me up inside. I want to be a part of this industry, a part of film, especially the mainstream. I want to be involved. But I've proven throughout my entire life, time and time again, no matter what I do, I'll never ever be a part of that world. And I know it. So, I'm going to hate it. I'm going to hate it as much as I can, and I want you to hate it too, whatever it is. Hate all film and art for no reason. Hate it before you've even seen it. Hate it publicly even if you like it. Repeat my mindless idiot catchphrases and click on my mindless slop content. If I can't ever be a part of Hollywood, then I'm going to bitterly resent every single part of it. God damn it! I'm going to spend the rest of my sad life in a small room hysterically trying to find minuscule faults in Disney princess movies. Because I've proven beyond a single shadow of a doubt that it's very literally all I'm able to do.
Yeah, there you go. That couldn't be more accurate, I feel like.
Yep, pretty much
I
nails
don't even
it.
have any commentary on that, really.
It almost makes you feel like a twinge of like sympathy for him, but then I realize who it's talking about, and I'm like, oh.
Well, not only that, but I think he genuinely thinks he is a good writer. Because why else would you try and make another short film?
Money? I mean, you know, like I guess it probably is a bit of both. Like he probably is convinced just by the sheer numbers of his subscribers and stuff, and he's able to look past the many critical comments that are, you know, pretty spot on, even from people that are, you know, longtime fans of his and stuff like that, and just kind of look at the minority that are, you know, still willing to praise him because, you know, obviously not. It's like the Rippaverse. It's not because the content is good. It's because he says the things about the people that they don't like, or they says the things they like to hear about the people that they don't like. That's it. I do need to take a break for a moment. So if you guys wanted to, you know, plug anything or talk about it, feel free.
Yeah, we can riff for a bit. Something that I think, and I don't know how you feel, Ryan, but something that I often think about these guys, the FNT dudes, and I was thinking this about EFAP the other day, is I kind of I have this weird twinge of sympathy for people who watch their content because part of me feels like a lot of what they do is pure narrative. So like there's this part of my brain that thinks it's probably got to be kind of vaguely entertaining to hear somebody tell you a story about something you don't like or want to not like, and they just act really smug, and then you listen to it and you enjoy them being really smug about it. I kind of feel like there's a part of me that gets that, especially like take like a guy like Mahler, right? Where he produces these like mega long video essay series. They're ponderous. I don't think he makes his points very well. But one thing he does do is repeat a lot of the stuff that happens, which means he's kind of like storytelling a little bit. You know, I don't know if I'd say it's good, but I kind of get the attraction. Whereas like the Critical Drinker has kind of demonstrated being like a smug dickhead is not good as an artist, because it kind of causes people to like, first of all, develop expectations for your work, but also like it's not constructive to practicing seeing why things are good or why craft comes together. And I just feel like he's kind of hobbled himself in that regard.
Well, I think fundamentally he's not a knowledgeable critic about how films are made. He's not a particularly good critic about films that are made, but he can say things that people had obviously never heard before. And I think the reason I immediately took against him was because I had heard them we've had critics like that in the UK. I mean, that's how Charlie Brooker started. If you seek out any of Charlie Brooker's screenwrite programs, before he became the success he is now with his fictional stuff, he was a TV reviewer, and he was silly and he was rude and he was often quite excoriating about the things he was criticizing, but he was also fair. He would make jokes about certain elements while also praising certain other elements. Generally, his targets were sort of deserving, the sort of ghoulish daytime poor people exploitation stuff, things like that. That's the sort of stuff he'd really go after. And so all Drinker is doing is he's doing the same thing, but for Hollywood movies, but without any sense of knowledge of how that stuff's made, or any of the sort of charm to say, I enjoyed this thing, but also this is how this part of it is silly. He's just full venom, which appeals to the people who also hate the things that he hates. And you can see this from the sort of the way he started. Like, I think Captain Marvel was his first foray into this, and there were a lot of people who hated Captain Marvel because it was a woman in a comic book film, and for all those reasons. There's other people that it just didn't chime with, and they wanted to hear somebody echo what they felt, because generally speaking, it was well received. It made $1 billion. It was a success. And so if you can tap into that market of the people who disagree with the narrative, you become the narrative, and that's where he is now. The difference, I think, between him and someone like Charlie Brooker is, besides the sort of the intelligence and the I can't think of the word, but like the way he picked his targets, is that Charlie Brooker was also incredibly creative and used his early success to develop projects in the system, and came up with Black Mirror and took that on and was successful with it. Whereas really, Critical Drinker's creatively bankrupt from the beginning, from his start with the books. So there was no creativity there in the beginning. He just knew how to string together an insult in a vaguely amusing way, if you've never heard that before. Whereas, like you were saying with EFAT, again, what they're doing is they're echoing the sentiment of people who agree with them, or perhaps somebody watches a film, they don't like it, and they don't quite articulate why. They can't explain why they don't like something, and he basically fills that gap for them by sounding like he knows what he's talking about. And with Friday Night Lights, I think it's more with them. It's more of they're appealing to people who hate media, who hate modern media, and think modern media sucks. They're appealing to people who have grown up and loved all the stuff from when they were kids and don't like to see anybody else do anything with it. And so it's purely hate-filled and spite-filled. So that's my views on it.
I guess one of the reasons why I stopped doing so much stream content is like, this is one of several reasons, but part of it was I felt like I was getting pulled in a lot of directions. And as I have like less and less time to spare, I was thinking like, I want to write all these video essays, but I've got to I've been reading like whole ass books for those. And, there's a physical limit in terms of time and energy that I can expend on something like that. And when I was thinking about this, about some of these guys who I try so hard to be sympathetic towards, or at least to kind of get in their head, because I don't think like a child who loves a film that they saw and who is going to carry that feeling about that film forever and be nostalgic about it starts out thinking, man, I hate all these black people in these films. These guys all got to this point through some just series of developments in their life. And not that makes it okay, but I do sometimes think about like the path that took them here. And with the Drinker especially, it's a bit shocking to me because he has effectively now 3 things that he does that I'm aware of. No, sorry, 4, because he's making the films. So he's writing and producing films. He's writing books. I don't know if he's still producing new books, but that was something that he had done for quite some time. He makes his YouTube videos and he does live streams. He has a show with Mahler.
Yep.
And I just like, that's a lot of time to dedicate to stuff. But even even before I really knew that much about like Open Bar and before he was announcing these films and stuff, he could have just occasionally read books about film or watched documentaries about
Sure.
film and developed more knowledge over time. Because like that's how autodidacts work, is you just go out of your way to read people who know what they're talking about, you know.
Wait, has he
And
claimed that he's an autodidact before?
no. But I just mean like that's basically what somebody like him, because I don't think he has really like a film school education.
No, I mean it's just like Mahler. They both just seem to feel like their wisdom is just bestowed upon them, you know, through fucking divine, you know, I don't know what. Like it's bizarre. You know what I mean? Nothing that Mahler says really ever matches up with any traditional or even, you know, fucking non-traditional filmmaking wisdom or anything. It's just whatever the fuck he feels like saying at a given time. And
well, I saw that I mean, I don't know how much to say, but that thread that you sent, that you posted, that Reddit thread,
the one with for Anthony's thing?
Yeah, for the Mahler subreddit reacting to that video. And I scrolled down and I saw this one exchange between 2 of the people in that thread that I thought was kind of fascinating, where one of them was really defending the idea that Mahler's criticism is objective.
Right. That's the one I was trying to get Anthony or whoever to look, because I was like, holy shit, this is, you know, this, of course this comes up with these people, because I'd heard from a few different fans of his over the time that he no longer claims objectivity, and that he's actually never fully claimed it, and he's even criticized it as, you know, not perfect or whatever. But even the guy that was saying that was still defending objective quality, and I'm like, what the fuck? It just blows my mind a bit.
I've heard people say that Mahler doesn't think that way anymore, but I don't know if I believe that.
I don't. Yeah,
I think he's kind of overqualified his commentaries.
Why would you go after other channels for liking or not liking the right or wrong thing the way that they do, unless they believe that, right?
Right. Well, just ask him if he thinks his arguments about The Last Jedi or Dark Souls 2 are correct. He'll probably say something like what I've heard him say before, which is he could have made them better. But that's not the same thing as admitting that you're wrong.
Right.
Well, I think he's realized that for a long time, people couldn't successfully articulate against why objective criticism wasn't a thing. And now they can. And so now he has to sort of say that, oh, that's not what I do. And then his fans will say, well, that's not what he ever did. Whereas I think like 3 or 4 years ago, he would have said that's definitely what he did, because people would say that people would make videos about how you can't objectively criticize something, and they would tear them apart. And I think we're at the stage now where everybody else's arguments have got more sophisticated. And I think this guy has pointed out that you cannot objectively criticize media.
Right. It says it right there. Since you can't be, as your standards will always be subjective. It's more misspelled addressing problems with the movie that are considered objective flaws, inconsistencies, specific control. So like the thing that I've noticed with, like, you know, specifically certain reviews of Mahler's, or, you know, clips of his review. That's not like I've watched the whole fucking stream or anything, or video, but things that he says, you know, criticism of this or that, where it's clear that he doesn't have the life experience to know what the fuck he's talking about. You know what I mean? Like I made a meme about it where it's like, you know, he just sounds like you know, kind of a privileged, you know, maybe 25-year-old guy that hasn't really experienced a lot in life. And you know, hey, I was there. And I would cringe to if I had posts of myself acting like I was, you know, fucking smarter than everybody back then. You know what I mean? It's just pretty clear that he doesn't know a lot of areas of you know, just life, study, whatever it is. You know, like and his fans are the same way. Whenever I've tried to engage with them, there was one guy I talked to who was talking, about a movie or show. I can't forget what it was. Doesn't matter. But like something about a career criminal who had broken into a home. Like that's his thing. He's a criminal. He breaks into a home. It's Terriers, the show Terriers. And this guy's like a, kind of a scummy guy, the two characters in that show. And he breaks into this house or whatever. And then somebody almost catches him. And he like drops something and leaves it or some shit like that. And he was like, that's just unrealistic because if he's a career criminal, he would not have made those types of mistakes. And it's like, what the fuck are you like? This is like the same level of, criticizing what the characters in a horror movie do whenever they're fucking freaking out and the masked killer's trying to saw their head off. And it's like, do you understand that maybe the human brain would not always make the best choices in that type of moment? And that you might make a mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just think it's interesting. I can't remember what they were reviewing. I do occasionally watch EFAP just to kind of get like a temperature check. And like I'm all for personal growth and I don't want to hate, but man, some of the stuff that some of the people who are on that show sometimes, I'm trying to qualify this, will say is just stupid. Fringy in particular is a fucking dumbass. I have heard him say over just the past couple of years some really stupid shit, like a couple times I've heard remarks on EFAP, and I remember one in particular that he said, I don't remember the context, but it was something to the effect of like, oh, and this is, I think it was about Guardians of the Galaxy maybe. He was like, oh, they never explained this or that. And it's like, well, do you understand that your express stated belief that it would be better to put explanations of what is happening in the dialogue, because that's the writing that you hear spoken in the film. Everything else that's written in the film is in the scene visually, what you're seeing. The words in the film that you have direct contact with is the dialogue or any narration. And a lot of these films don't have narration, so it's going to be in the dialogue. If that is what you are asking for constantly, that's by all conventions shitty writing. Needing to do that constantly would make films fucking unbearable. And like, if there was an objective standard for good writing, that would be one of those points, And
right, like
I just feel like these guys have never read manuals for writers.
The one
it's
thing
bizarre.
we have in common that me and them generally they espouse is immersion being important. I fully believe that. That's one, like, mainly the first thing that I will credit as like, oh, this movie was amazing. I forgot I was watching a movie. You know what I mean? And they say that too, and it's like, but that's the kind of shit that if they had scripts written the way that they sometimes seem to want them, then it would completely there'd be no immersion whatsoever. You would just be constantly like taken out as your handheld through some fucking scene or whatever. So like there's like this.
I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, like, how does this society, well, I guess we eventually see like how it operates, but it's just like, how do you build stuff, man? Like in water?
Underwater welding. It's one of the most essential jobs on the planet.
That's going to be really difficult, right?
As well, because it's not like on land where you have seasons or you have like changing weather or anything. Like, you're under the ocean. It's just the same all the time. And clearly you can survive under the ocean. You don't need buildings.
I mean, there's more to it than that as well, and this is an argument from incredulity. They don't believe that something is true, therefore it cannot be true. Therefore, the movie is wrong for showing it.
That's EFAP's favorite.
Well, yeah, and for a start, it's fiction, so all bets are off. Secondly, it's superhero fiction, so if you cannot think of a reason why they might need to build something underwater, I'm sorry that the movie can't hold your hand through that. If you can't think about how it's possible to build something underwater, then that's your own ignorance, because things get built underwater all the time and have been for literally 1,000 years.
Well, it's also like it's so bizarre. Like I like somebody said in chat, like, Rags is dumber than Fringy. Rags is lazy and hateful, which I guess is
he's a little
is a stupidity producing
I fucking
equation.
That little piece of shit. God.
But I do think it's super interesting. First of all, Ryan, such a good point about arguments from incredulity. This is like one of the reasons why guys like this overlap with the political right so much is that's a really common shared quality.
Weirdly, they also overlap with flat earthers in the same respect.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna plug it again. I have a 9-part video series about this. And one of the things that I note about the idea of like immersion breaking and lore breaking, to kind of fuse this with what I was saying earlier, is you can even use The Last Jedi as an example of why this argument is really dumb. You could let's say, for the sake of argument, The Last Jedi is a terrible film. We might disagree about that, but just for the sake of argument, let's set that out as a premise of this talk, of this little talk I'm about to give. The Holdo maneuver. Objections to this tend to be predicated on immersion and lore and things of that nature. Here's the thing. In the lore of Star Wars, this is a fact, the Raddus, which is the name of that ship that they do that maneuver with, has an experimental shield array. The Raddus is a very large and very expensive capital ship. It has experimental shielding. It is a unique ship. So the idea that this breaks space combat for Star Wars, not true. There's a canon reason why they don't just do that with like X-Wings on all the Star Destroyers at the end of Rise of Skywalker. There's a reason for that.
They said that in the movie.
Right, but then the counter would be like, oh, they don't say that in the film, but like the film visually demonstrates that it's possible because it fucking happens. Like, I don't know how to like.
And on top of that, like getting back into, because I can't pretend that's a bad movie for very long, because like, holy shit, they're depriving themselves so much. What a fucking amazing sequence. Jesus Christ.
I also think it's interesting that like the cinematography of that film and like the poetics of the like design and the camera work is so much less interesting to them than like there's a choreography error.
Something that just occurred to me about the clip we just saw that I hadn't thought about before is like, in their favor, I guess in their defense, like if they're missing a real criticism. If they're so fixated on wait, how do they build shit underwater? Then the movie is fucking failing at capturing their attention for some reason. You know what I mean? Like that's they completely missed that.
But the thing is, I would argue that is the case if you're a regular watcher, and that's something that draws you out of the film. But they're looking for it here,
right?
Exactly. They're specifically looking for it, and
that's why.
That's what you can talk yourself out of liking any film you want. Pick your favorite film, go through it scene by scene, and pick out everything that doesn't work if you don't know what you're talking about. Because that's what's the case here. They don't understand how you can build things underwater because they're ignorant of it, and that's not stupidity. That's ignorance, and they don't. They don't want to learn.
I've actually defended them, or at least Drinker in that clip, because I don't feel like that in another context he would not even consider that there are things built underwater. I think that's a product specifically of my job. My role here is to fucking hyper scrutinize everything I'm looking at right now for the audience sake, for money's sake, basically. So that creates scenarios where they'd come off as fucking morons because they're not even realizing, because they think they're trying to find the most clever, quote unquote, clever thing that their audience will go, yeah.
The fact that he says, well, there's no weather underwater, there's no seasons. There are seasons underwater.
There are seasons. There's literally warm water. I mean, there's the poles, there's the tropics. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, but this is the formula issue. If your content relies on being smugly condescending, eventually and probably pretty quickly, you're going to hit domains that you don't have expertise in. And if you're these guys, that's probably most things.
Well, and I have another example here that's one of my favorite little moments of it actually begins with Az. They're watching the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, but Mahler's on this stream, and the fact that he doesn't call out what Az says here, I mean, either he missed it and he's or he just is dishonest, and but we know probably both are true. Makes a point of like, and it's like, okay, fine, it's kind of true, I guess. Like he says,
it's a good pause though, because I was going to say, did anyone else get struck by the editing's a little choppy in this trailer? Like it feels like it's one draft away from complete.
Then Az's response to that is, yeah.
It feels like they're cutting lots of stuff out.
Yeah.
Of what's actually happening. So yeah, we're getting kind of like a really condensed. This scene might go on for 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
what
was
a
his fucking
deep-
response
Oh
to,
my
like, I mean,
God.
you know, that's definitely just stating a fact about what editing does.
Mm.
You know, what trailers are.
That's
and then he thought he was saying something profound, I
Whoa.
guess. I don't know.
You mean a trailer's a cut up version of the movie, just doing highlights? What?
The scenes are actually much longer in the movie. You know, I mean, and you know, to clarify, Mahler did not call that out or anything, and it's like that's such a stupid thing to say, and I do believe Az is probably that stupid, but you know,
I do think like Mahler kind of like what you said, Dane. Mahler seems to kind of buy his own narrative a little bit. So when somebody around him says something stupid, I imagine it does mildly grate on him, and he has to do that little check where he's like, "Am I gonna fight this person about this?" Because he did that with Gary.
with Gary, yeah, there was I have a video from not long ago where he's like, "Oh, that one's the one where I realized how delusional he might be," because he's like, you know,
I was on his side though. I was like, get his ass, Mahler, like 100%.
Well, but I mean, yeah, Gary's just being lazy in bad faith. Mahler's being like up his own ass and pretentious, you know, with a really just kind of, I don't know. He's saying that he talks about how it's the biggest insight into how he sees what he does that I've ever gotten. Right. Like, so he says that they review, he distinguishes himself from like Gary and the other guys a little bit. And he says, you know, what we tend to do is, you know, look at the meta narrative of these things. And on those terms, Deadpool and Wolverine is just, it's disastrous. And it's like,
and he's not talking about the film itself, though. He's talking about the meta narrative, because he's talking about how damaging it is for the entire film industry. He's talking about the meta
as well. You know, all of these films are worse now because of this movie. You know what I mean? It's
the meta narrative of all film is somehow affected by a film, him not liking a film, which is, yeah, it's
that's like
odd.
a shittier version of Jordan Peterson's shitty reading of Young.
Yeah, I mean, it comes off like this is kind of fucked up, maybe, but it's like, oh wait, was he like? He probably didn't have a dad. He probably had a working mom, and he just like was sat in front of a fucking VCR or DVD player, Blu-ray probably, and fucking watched movies literally nonstop. You know, that's just the only thing he had for his entire childhood. Maybe no friends. I don't know. That's the only way I can imagine you come to see what you do and film in this kind of fucking warped context is just a guess, but.
The thing is, in the streams, you know, the important thing to remember is essentially they're playing the improv rules, which is yes and never disagree with somebody. Right. And sometimes they forget that, and that's where they get into the fights. But essentially, they always yes and, even if someone says something as stupid as what Az said there, which was, this trailer doesn't tell us the whole film. It's like they've cut bits up into a shorter version in order to get us interested in it.
Sorry, can I ask a question? How old is Mahler? I always assumed he was my age. I don't know why.
I think he's about 30.
Oh, I think he was like mid to late 20s or something.
Early 30s. I think he was born 92.
Okay, so he's actually a couple years older than me. Yeah.
He lives right down the road from Ryan, I think.
He doesn't live just down technically, in American terms, he lives just down the road, but it's
it's like they're all in one town in England.
Well, you know, he's Welsh, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you say once that he kind of seems like he's putting on an affect a bit with his voice?
He's
like
got a weird way of pronouncing things. I mean, I've got a weird way of pronouncing things, but I've still got an accent.
All you people over there.
If you listen, and I think he's aware of this, somebody must have pointed out to him, but W words he really struggles with. He says words in a weird way. Works. Yeah.
I feel like that sounds like trying to sound more, I don't know, profound or something.
Well, I know he wanted to be a voiceover actor.
Yeah.
Like all of
like
these.
He could have also been a fucking mod for Sargon of Akkad, maybe. I mean, I don't have proof of that, but I've heard it a lot that was true before he became Mahler, the infamous Mahler, that he was a mod for Sargon of Akkad.
Which would be
like
crazy.
All of these guys, though, they're all failed. They all wanted to be successful in the media industry, and they all failed, and so they all turned to criticizing it, and they've all found different niches. Yeah, it's just so, and you, from the clips that I've seen, to be fair, it's generally not Mauler that does this. It's his guests, and he just doesn't say anything. Either he knows they're saying something stupid, but that the audience will laugh at, or he's just clueless to it. But they'll often make criticisms of films that are completely unwarranted if you know anything about the subject. And so, like, I always think, like, the thing about film is, if you're an expert in a particular field, like say you're a plumber and you watch somebody do some plumbing work on a film and you think, well, that's not how you do that, that sort of breaks the immersion. But most people are, I mean, it could literally break the immersion. That's a joke for anybody who remembers immersion heaters, but
didn't geneticists say that about Jurassic Park or something?
Well, yeah, I mean, scientists, because like even Interstellar, which had a scientist, a literal space scientist, a quantum theorist, assist on the movie, doesn't get everything right. And if you know that field, you'll say, well, that's incorrect, or that's wrong, or whatever.
If you want to get science fiction right, watch fucking The Expanse, man. Jesus, watch that shit. All right.
But I bet even they get some things wrong, but most people don't notice, and it doesn't matter. And I think most people as well, like,
at least
you know,
they get that space is 3D, you know, for like the first time ever in a science fiction space.
Well, I mean, like, because Neil deGrasse Tyson gets a lot of shit for saying, like, this thing in a movie is bullshit. And it's like, just enjoy it.
Right.
That's
yeah.
what these guys are doing. But these guys are doing it from zero knowledge base, and he's doing it from a very
Neil
high
seems to
knowledge
be having a little fun with it, right? Like he's kind of,
Yes.
you know, be a little bit of trolling, having a little fun.
Yeah.
But like, so here's this, you know, since the topic of the conversation is, it's, you know, I mean, Rags he's been on Friday Night Tights. I've seen before, like on his own, I think. But like for the most part, it's notable that Mahler's usually with these people by himself. You know what I mean? I was thinking about that the other day. Wonder why that is. Maybe Rags is just a little bit too much of a toxic little gremlin. Who knows? But this clip here is something.
Black Lives Matter is, gosh, what's the most charitable way to describe Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter is a bully organization of frustrated, spoiled millennials and people looking for an anger outlet. It's a borderline terrorist organization that often spews hateful rhetoric.
So that right there is like, what's a borderline terror organization? You know, is that like how the Proud Boys or
I think it's interesting that he's got front and center the gentleman with the gun, with the firearm here.
Right. I mean,
you know,
yeah, this is the most bad faith and honestly just it's Breitbart. He's fucking doing Breitbart talking points. But sorry,
I mean, Rags doesn't know that whether or not he could have a right to do this. Like, there are protesters who do legal open carry in America. I just like the idea that that's terrorism is just, it does not make any sense.
I would assume that if this was not legal, this man would be, you know, detained for this by now, right?
Like, how many situations have we seen white guys in fatigues with their carrying their guns?
Yeah, I mean, it's just completely one-sided, I guess, is what I meant to say.
Just wait until he starts literally reading off basically Breitbart shit. It's crazy.
Inspires murder on police officers. I have absolutely
kind of like
how many examples of that does he have? Like BLM inspired cop killings.
I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I can't think of an example that anybody has become a famous guy. I can think of some examples, literally for like 3 examples on January 6th.
I can think of like cops who have been killed, but a few of the examples of like black people who are famous for killing cops were themselves like former cops or former military, not like random activists.
No love for Black Lives Matter. They are an awful organization. I have no time and no patience.
Not distinguishing that there's an organization versus a movement. Very fucking stupid and bad faith.
Seeing protesters and thinking organization is just like that. Presenting like protests as the organization. Also, is interesting that he is saying organization, and then he brings up the cop killing and terror allegation, implicating the organization in that, which I think is super interesting.
I mean, there's been some problems with the organization, but I don't think that's been one.
I don't think it's that they're assassinating people though, or people connected to them are. I don't. Where's the proof of that?
Groups of individuals who want to blame all the problems that they think they may or may not be facing on some boogeyman called white supremacy or systematic racism.
Systematic racism. There we go.
May or may not be facing is fucking crazy, by the way.
I mean, coming from somebody who regularly contributes to people who are anti-woke, which is a literal boogeyman. I mean, it couldn't be much more of a boogeyman if it was hiding under your bed. But coming from somebody who goes against the woke, which is completely made up.
Yeah. Well, when these people define it, it's the definitions are usually like the terms are very technical, but the categories are very diffuse.
Yeah.
Which is why it's sort of misleading when they're like, no, we can define it. It's like, well, you can come up with the definition, but like white supremacy, it might sound like a vague phrase, but like the meaning behind it is pretty particular, like elevating white people above other groups or putting other groups below white people in any kind of like material manner. That's pretty straightforward in terms of the meaning of the phrase. So to act like he doesn't know what it means is kind of crazy.
Right. It's almost like it's more likely that he's defending the idea that it's not a real thing because he knows it's a real thing. That'd be my guess. But he is from fucking Arkansas. Not to say all Arkansas people are pieces of shit, but Rag certainly is.
Also, like, because I was at Black Lives Matter protests, more so when I was in college, but like there were a lot of people there who were first of all, it was like a grassroots chapter. There were a lot of people there who were older, Gen X and boomers, and they had like experience from like previous decades that was really helpful to organizing. The idea that this is all like disaffected millennials, first of all, I don't know how old this guy is, but to not understand that this is or indeed to lie about, if he does know it, the idea that this is like a demographic with specific ages, I don't know, like even if you just look up footage of people who represent different like BLM groups or, people who talk about Black Lives Matter in a positive light, is clearly not a movement of just one generation or one age demographic. I mean, so like saying it's like, privileged or spoiled millennials or whatever, however he said it, like that just doesn't track at all.
He looks young. This is a thumbnail for a video that I was still need to finish editing, but he looks young.
It might be an older photo.
This is a few years old, I believe. I whenever he wants to, man, I'd love to have the guy on and ask him some questions.
What is he educated on? Because like at least like at the college level, like okay, it's like a bachelor's degree. I'm not trying to like jerk myself off about it, but like I did take some women's and gender studies courses, so I am at least like in a cursory manner familiar with some of this stuff, and I have read some of these books. Like I mentioned some of the Kendi books that I've read. I just kind of feel like what's his basis for this?
Well, you're about to see. I actually put it on screen because the shit he says is so fucking awful and incorrect and white supremacist that I had to put context on screen for this clip before I was willing to show it on the channel.
Easier to blame something else for your problems instead of maybe the fact that, well, blacks in this country commit an insanely high amount of crime. That 73% of blacks are born out of wedlock. Blacks only graduate from high school at a rate of 69% nationwide. The fact that 93% of black homicide victims are killed by other blacks. The fact that 40% of cop killers are black, despite black males being 6.6%
Then just for fun, I added some other stuff too.
0.6% of the United States population. But I suppose it's much easier to blame systematic racism or the police or white supremacy or just some nebulous boogeyman out there in the distance floating around invisible yet ever present instead of addressing the problems that face your own community.
I mean, the idea that like black activists and social critics don't talk about like education outcomes is fucking insane. You have to either be lying or have never listened to people from these movements talk. It's actually crazy. That's like one of the biggest issues.
Yeah.
Just nuts. Also,
I mean, I just assume that anybody that's getting it this wrong is intentionally caping for fucking cops. I have a clip of him doing that as well while they're watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'll bring that up in a second. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, it's just like the thing about this that's kind of passingly fascinating to me is I would actually like to see the articles that he flashes on screen there, because I would find it very interesting to investigate those sources and look into where he's getting those numbers from.
If you want to dive into Breitbart, you go right ahead.
I'd consider it, because I remember, for example, something, a few years back that was really popular. And this had more to do with the UK, but it was some poll about there was a terror attack, and Muslims were being polled about whether they were sympathetic. And the stat that got reiterated was sort of filtered through InfoWars, but a lot of like right-wing and center-right YouTubers were repeating it. And the idea was that a vast majority of Muslims approved of this guy. That was how they framed it. The actual question that they got that number from, first of all, it was phrased like, how likely would you be to say this? Like most likely, somewhat likely, that sort of thing. But it was, do you like empathize with him? And then there was another different question for approval. So it was completely deceptive. So I just think it's very interesting that these outlets provably lie about racial minorities and religious minorities and all sorts of groups all the time. To take them at face value, you just have to not give a shit about whether it's true. It's just a convenient lie.
That's fundamentally the problem that right-wingers are going to have with these AI sort of chatbots. That's the problem Elon's having with Grok, is that fundamentally reality is left-leaning, and they have to do so much, or so much money and time and effort into dismissing the facts for their right-wing bias. I mean, The Daily Show covered this about the right-wing Wikipedia years ago, how they had to create their own
Conservapedia?
Yes, because the Daily Show covered it because Wikipedia was considered too left-leaning because it presented the truth, and they couldn't handle it. And so, if Grok is pulling from all of the internet sources available to it, it's going to disagree with Elon, because Elon is not basing his opinion on facts, and Grok will. And so until you change the AI models to no longer look at facts and statistics, which is basically the only thing they can do, then you're always going to lose against the AI that they want so desperately to prove that they're the best and they're correct. And it's never going to do that. And that's why he's constantly getting into fights with it.
Well, it's the AI thing is really interesting because we can let this play.
My bad.
I like that scene in the second episode where the pig.
Well, here's the thing. I never felt like it was a tragic story.
Wait, did he call them pigs?
Did he?
What? Wait,
hold on. Can we?
Thing with Isaiah Bradley and how tragic his story is. I like that scene in the second episode where the pigs harass Sam.
Pigs. He called them pigs. He called the cops pigs.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
Okay. Did the policeman get his feelings hurt?
The fictional policeman too.
Y'all need to just put your money where your mouth is and put yourself on a list so that whenever there's an issue, whenever you have a car accident, or if anyone ever mugs you, robs you, assaults you, whenever anything happens, you're just on a do not help list for the pigs, because you don't want the pigs helping you out. So whenever you need something and you call 911, they're like, "Oh, sorry, yeah, that's right. You're on the list where we don't, you don't actually like us or respect us or want us. So we're not gonna help you out at all."
Hey Rags, real quick, there's a version of that already exists. It's called Living in Black Neighborhoods. Troglodyte.
Troglodyte, love it. I'm learning about zoo piles at the same time in chat. Holy shit, I didn't know that was a thing.
things
Isn't
I'd
exactly
rather
what you were
not
talking
learn.
about, though, Dane? Dane, this is why I can understand why you think these guys might be younger than they are, because the infantile view they have of the police.
Right.
And yeah, you can't say all cops are bad necessarily, but you can say institutionally they are. And
Well,
I
I mean,
mean,
this-
geez, can
He
you
also
imagine?
just said those
the same
pigs.
kind of
so
logic
he
as
could
the
just mean these
neurotic
two.
thing. It's like the neurotic thing. You can't criticize the cops. You can't call them, like the oldest, weakest, kind of derogatory reference that anybody uses for cops. Otherwise, you can't benefit from the things that they do whenever they do things correctly and properly. It's like saying, oh, the fire department, kind of sucks. They fucking let a couple of houses burn down. So, oh, well, then next time your house is on fire, they're not going to come to your fucking house. Like, we fucking pay taxes for this shit, man. Like, it's like,
They
it
are
doesn't.
our employees, and this is the difference again between the US and the UK. In the UK, the police do their job. It's called policing by consent, which
Right.
means
They'd
that
also
we.
shoot you because you don't have guns. But
Well, yeah, there's that too. But in the UK, the fundamental sort of basis of the police is that we consent to allow them to police us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so you can't break that. Obviously, it does because there are corrupt. I mean, there's some really great documentaries about corruption in British police forces in the 60s right up until today. But that doesn't mean every cop is bad. But
I just want to say, like, real quick, I believe this is a Shafrilla's video. As per my memory, EFAP's community harassed the fuck out of that guy. So this was really this was just in general nasty.
Par for the course.
But again, really interesting that all Shafrilla's said was that these cops were pigs. He didn't specify all cops.
But wait, I
He
have
didn't-
another one. That's that was a warm up.
Just so happens to walk into a room.
So I think this is so it starts with I think Fringer, whoever this fucking weirdo in the middle is, and then Rags finishes it all off. But
Couples just so happens to walk into a room with a bed or a couch.
Oh yeah.
That's how this is with black characters. Like every room they fucking walk in just happens to be a racist cop. Ready to put a knee on their neck or some shit. It's like they're
So they
treating
can die of a heart attack.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, says Molly.
Yeah,
I was
Mahler-
not beating the allegations whatsoever.
Right,
Crazy.
the idea that Mahler isn't fucking a bigot because he almost never says anything like overtly bigot. It's like you literally have this little fucking gremlin on your fucking show all the time because he's like your, like a kind of on a Key and Peele. I don't know if you ever watched that. There was the angry Obama interpreter or whatever. It's like that. He's Rags is Mahler's fucking racist interpreter. He's just
the thing is though, the other person who was speaking, I don't know who they are, but they're on that Wakanda Forever criticism as well, and they find it hard to believe that the Mayans were able to build stuff out of stone.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
they're not white, so like
as opposed to steel beams.
Well, yeah, but not just that. I mean, like if you Google Mayan temples, they're all built out of stone and they're all gigantic, and it's like, how could they possibly have transferred these skills to the water? It's just. Oh, apparently that's Jay Longbone. Well, they're an idiot.
Jay Longbone. Okay. It's good to know, I guess.
I mean, actually, the funny thing about using water for structures is that, as I recall, the way that like large stone structures were built and the way that large pieces of stone were cut often involved using water. Water and certain types of like cutting techniques, because obviously they didn't have like really high powered tools and stuff like that. So it just take a lot of time and a lot of effort and like certain conditions. There's a pretty good Mini Minuteman video about that, I think.
And it's also a lot easier to transport stones across water than it is over land. So the fact that they were able to build them on land meant that they would find it really easy to build them in the water. But plus they're super strong because they ate a flower. They're super strong. That's how they did it.
I have to get going here in just a couple minutes, but I do have like two quick ones here that I wanted to. Well, maybe not the second one because I feel like that would definitely require more conversation. But Here's this. Pay real close attention. It's only 7 seconds, and Rags says a thing. Here you go.
Chooses dab
Oh,
as if it's
darn it. What did you think he was saying? You'll get your rent when you fix this nigger door.
wow.
Did you catch that?
Huh?
You will get your rent when you fix this inward door, is what he said. They're watching Spider-Man 3.
Who said that?
Video. Rags.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
He chooses dab
Oh,
as if it's
darn it. What did you think he was saying? You'll get your rent when you fix this nigger door.
wow.
Oh yeah, he said it with a hard R. Of course he did. He's from Arkansas.
Oh.
Sorry, I know there's some Arkansas folks in chat. Look, I'm from Southeast Texas. I can say that. Like
That really puts the oppression they may or may not be facing comment in a new light.
Right. Well, then there's one more that I feel like I mean, if you want to take this one and then we can go. I don't want to drop it on you and then not give you enough proper time to. I mean, it's a very overtly anti-trans kind of screed that he does for a minute. So I don't know if you
Is
want.
This the Riley Dennis
Yes,
response?
exactly.
Yeah, I've
Yes.
seen this. Yeah.
Okay. I was working on a video that had me responding to these clips and stuff, and it just made me fucking angry. And then I realized, other than that, I just was basically just talking shit and calling him, making, because his favorite thing to do, like his only trick whenever he does a video about somebody, is to find ways to call them stupid that he very obviously thinks is just brilliant, like a very cleverly worded way to call the person stupid. That's basically all he does. If you see his video on Organized Chaos or anybody. And so I figured, well, in the spirit of Rags, I said he was I think I said he's an Arkansas 7, which makes him too stupid to understand that outside of Arkansas he's a 4.5 in terms of intelligence. And that he is just he gloms onto Mahler because he has no personality or talent, and gives Mahler an excuse to not actually say the bigoted things that he wants to.
More like Arkansas 7 brain cells.
Yeah. So yeah, we won't look at that. That's pretty rough clip. That fucking makes me mad. Hey, $5. Thanks. Appreciate it. I think there was another one I missed. Let me check. Also, thanks for exposing Friday Night Zeros. Hey, you're welcome. It is my pleasure to talk to the people that I get to talk to. I'll say that for sure. That is the only way that I fucking am still doing this stuff. It's the only way I can do a couple streams about generally the same shit every week, is that I get to talk to some of the best people ever. So thank you. I don't even know if that's at my channel. Whoever it is, I'm thanking you for them.
Yeah, I just like closing comment, because about the Riley Dennis thing, like he says a lot of pretty nasty stuff in there. Patricia Taxon, I think, responded to that years ago, actually. But he one thing he says about Riley is and I think she was even earlier in her transition at the time. But one of the things that he said about her was like, well, Riley, you do know that some people could mistake you for a man, or some people might look at
most
you.
people, when they look at you, they're going to see a man. He says your every cell is male. Like he's going on the bio tangent and shit.
Yeah.
And it's fucking
pretty funny. You could probably contest some of the claims that he makes there. But what I find really interesting about that clip psychologically is that, as usual, he's fighting for his right to be wrong. Like, to say, well, most people would think this, and it's like, okay, they can be wrong though. Like, hello,
I mean, and like the thing that I did whenever I first covered it was, so we had stumbled upon, their real names are just out there, Rags and Mahler, like on Fandom Wiki and like IMDb and shit. Their names are out there, but they apparently don't like people to know that their names are out there or know what they are, or the pictures that are also easy to find, a couple of them piece. And I'm like, you know what? Considering that this fucking guy doesn't want to respect that about, a trans woman or any trans person, I think that it's fair that I should not respect his, desire to. It's not like I doxed him. It's not like I searched, like went through his personal shit. This is just out there. So, I don't have any problem fucking saying his name is Lawrence Angel, and Mahler is fucking what is it? Callum Edmonds. Of course, he's now using his real name with the Rippaverse book that he's writing or whatever. So
Yeah, I mean, it's it not that it makes a point in particular, but I do kind of feel like there's if you are supporting an ideology that is fundamentally provably destroying society, right? Like a lot of this like anti-black bullshit has got to fucking stop.
Yep.
And like, there was a time when if you were seeing media that covered a person who had said something, at minimum their face was in it because it would be like televised video footage or something, or their name would be attached to it because it was written in a book or an article. But the internet has sort of given these people the convenience of being pretty bold about it. I don't know. That's the sort of thing that I kind of feel like, first of all, it locks you into this cul-de-sac of right-wing grievance culture where now like the anti-black screeds that you're going on have definitely put you in a position where that's your life now for, unless there's a significant like turnaround where you're like, man, that was really bad. And I'm going to put a lot of effort into fighting back against that stuff. I guess, you could have a life after hate moment or something, but like, I just
here's
don't...
that video thumbnail for anybody that wants to watch that after this. You can go find it on my channel if you like.
What's up with just a weird observation? What's up with Mahler in terms of his avatar? Like it's like a gas mask that's also like his face.
It seems like some kind of weird kink thing to me. I did a funny thing with it, or I thought it was funny on a thumbnail once, where I let's see, I took it and I made a hose on the mask that went to a jar that says drinkers farts, I think, or something like that, because they're like the defense squad for critical drinker. Anytime somebody of note criticizes them, they're like, oh, they spring to action. But yeah,
is it just a weird thing? I do vaguely remember him having an avatar that was like the gas mask, but then it's also like him in a suit.
Yes.
And it's just such a basic like Rant Sona vibe. Like he's like no bullshit or armored skeptic or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. Fallout power suit helmet. I don't know.
It looks kind of like that, but I think it's meant to be. It almost looks like it's a face that's also a mask. Like it's I don't know. I just a weird question that I had.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of noticeable that it's specific, right? Like what I noticed is that there's a lock, like a key lock in the middle of it. And that makes me feel like there's some kind of like kink thing to it. But I mean, it couldn't be that, right?
Or
at least I don't know.
There's got to be like some in his mind he had like a rationale for that. Like it's like symbolic or something.
At one point, he apparently he literally thought of himself as having a robot brain that he could literally flip a switch and turn off emotionality to, so that he can review films with objectivity.
That was how he referred to his objective standard as the robot.
Right. And so, to me, I'm just like, dude, you're autistic. It's okay. That's okay. I am too. But that's what that sounds like. You know what I mean? Like you think you're turning up, but I mean, at the same time, you only think you're turning up your emotion. That is an emotional
objectivity, right? It's like objectively not true that's the case. I would really encourage you guys, if any of the stuff that I've said about Mahler being wrong about stuff feels unfair, I really encourage you to watch his Dark Souls 2 videos and give him some lenience in terms of how he's stating his arguments and stuff like that. The tone, obviously, I'm sure he would look back and be like, I wish I had phrased this better. But then listen to like the structure of his arguments, because he says a lot of stuff where he's like, I'm interested in objectivity, not feelings. I don't care about your feelings. But then when he's making a quote unquote objective remark, he'll be like, well, you don't do this because it makes the player feel. And it's like, no. You said that wasn't what we did.
Right.
You know, like you said we're not doing that, but like he does cite his feelings when doing the objectivity, which just no matter how he would like restate the argument, you know, it just inherently undermines his points. Like structurally, it's just illogical.
This is a meme I made, a couple of years ago. I still think it's pretty good.
I think it's kind of funny that going back to that Reddit thread from earlier, I guess this is the last thing that I'll say is the way that the fan of his or the I don't want to attribute anything to them, but the OP of that thread made that remark about what objectivity is. It basically just sounded like what CinemaSins does, like sniping at whether something is explained or like whether something is a plot hole or whatever. It's really not deep art critique. It's like fundamentally pretty shallow.
Yeah, without any sense of fun or even just like taking it very, very seriously. I don't know. It's I mean,
also,
if
on
he's
the
going for
assumption
it,
that if you have mystery or lack of an explanation, that's inherently bad.
Right. Well, that breaks immersion. He has to think about it too much. By the way, I don't know if I should give the person credit for this that came up with this, and I made the image based on it, but he's on stream with us right now.
I assumed I couldn't remember saying that, but I assumed it was me because it's the British spelling of arsehole.
It's a very you thing, yeah.
What video did you mention again? Who are we talking about?
Who are you
Dane,
watching?
myself?
What channel are you on?
Sorry, was it the Dark Souls video that you just mentioned?
That's. I mean, I've seen some of that video. And it's pretty good.
If it was the Dark Souls thing, Mahler has a series of Dark Souls videos on his. I believe they're on his main channel that I was talking about. There is a response actually by a channel called Domo 3000, where he did like a 2-hour like airing of the grievances with Mahler's points, and he's like a Dark Souls channel. So I'd recommend that for sure. Also, Mahler just gets stuff actually objectively incorrect in that video series. Like he says stuff about the hitboxes that's not true. He says stuff about PvP that actually Dang It JM, another Souls tuber that people might know, called that out like years ago that Mahler was spreading misinformation about the PvP. So yeah, it's not a very good video series. If you're talking about the video series on my channel that I mentioned, I do Star Wars.
Gregor, there are 5 channels playing the stream right now, so you have to specify which one you're watching. I'm sorry. StreamYard kind of sucks and doesn't tell us. StreamYard, fix that shit. Like, actually do something people want to happen, okay?
The only other thing I think of is you mentioned, Dane, a couple of your videos on the subject. When you put up the thumbnail image, the last thumbnail image you put up of Mauler and Rags and their real names.
Yeah.
That was from, might be that video. It's hard to keep track. What I would suggest is just scroll back through this stream and
okay. Yeah.
That would be the best thing for Drager 001 to do.
Yes. As for the last image I'd like to show here, it is goes back to the origins and why I believe we even know who Mahler is and why the root of why I think he does what he does. Armchair psychoanalysis of someone I don't know personally and only literally know what I've seen clips of his content and seen things he said. My opinion, and I'm not afraid to just say this shit, even though it might be very wrong and might be irresponsible of me. I don't know. Is that he just didn't have anything for himself and he was failed, like all conservative minded people, they failed at something and then they find if not a grift, just like a stupid little groove that they can, make a little money off of, your My Pillows or whatever. And they just fucking go full force in on it because, I just think this tells the whole story.
Yeah, this is this post exactly, and it's in and of itself is why I think of Mahler as like the movie critic what if alt hist, because he early on in what he did, he really hit his stride and got a lot of attention, and then just doesn't really seem to have grown a lot, in my opinion.
he was, and that's what I think a lot of this content in general. Before we get out of here, my kid just got back from a doctor's appointment. Got to go check on that and stuff. But like, I think that this content freezes growth, and in fact, eventually you watch enough of it, it starts to regress. Progress of a human being and their journey as a person. Becoming someone more, better, wiser, more mature than they were before, especially younger people, especially younger, isolated. Often, I believe a lot of autistic people fall victim to this shit, and it pisses me off because it's hard for people on the spectrum to find community, and they run into this content, and it's very easy to just type some fucking words about people that you don't know or whoever you don't like in a video, and then hear a content creator say some shitty things or whatever and validate you, and you develop a parasocial relationship with them, and then a weird odd community with all these other fucking haters around you and shit, and it just basically freezes your brain, and tells you all those shitty insecurities that you have that that you used to feel anxious about, and you thought, oh, there's something wrong with me. No, that's all good. Everyone else is wrong. You're great. You know what I mean? Like, essentially everything that you are at this point, without having worked on yourself or tried to learn anything about the world or grow your emotional responses or anything like that, that's all perfect, and everyone else is at fault for all of the weird things that you feel whenever you go outside and meet other people. And have to learn how to engage with somebody with a different experience than you, all that. And that's why I think this shit is ultimately harmful. And then, that right there just fucking plants the seeds for far-right recruitment, radicalization. And as we've looked at today, I think it's pretty clear that that's what happens. That without these guys, without these YouTubers, I don't know, maybe it's safe to say, maybe not. I don't know that we'd have a Trump administration. There's the comedy podcast sphere that is, obviously bigger, I think, than this shit, but still, these are big channels that fed into this and still do, to a lesser degree, because they're all losing, viewers all the time. But yeah, they fed a lot of young, impressionable, often damaged or traumatized or, autistic or whatever minds, right into fucking MAGA. And yeah, here we are. Sorry, rant over.
Yeah. No, I think it's okay to end on that if you want.
Yeah. Well, I will play this bit of this Mahler, Endymion, Alan Richardson thing, since we were talking about it earlier, and it's fun. Do you want to promote your channel or anything?
Oh, yes. So tomorrow I have an Andor video.
Cool.
Kind of about like the politics of like genocide and Star Wars and the way that show is written and why I think it's so important. It's a short little video, but I've talked about this before, and I'm really pleased that I'm finally putting the finishing touches on these, because I've written them all out and everything. I have video essays, a 3-part video essay series about the writing of the sequel trilogy. One of them is going to be, I think it might be even over an hour when I finally finish it, about just the writing of Rey Skywalker. And I've got another one that might hit an hour and be almost as long, about Finn and Poe and like writing gay relationships in Star Wars. And I've got a third one where I kind of give my biggest criticism of The Last Jedi. That's going to be a bit shorter. And then after that, I'm producing some more stuff about Oblivion and Dragon Age before September, when I'm really going to kick into high gear, because I've got a ton of stuff about like Greedfall and Borderlands that I've been working on. I have a video about all 6 of the main Borderlands games, including some of the DLCs, that I'm going to try to have done before the new Borderlands comes out. And maybe we'll talk about the discourse behind that game. But that's going to have philosophy in it. It's going to have a ton of art commentary. It's going to be a big monster of a video.
See, I can appreciate that. I've played some Borderlands. I appreciate the lore in Borderlands. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
And almost just real quick, almost as if to prove my point. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right. Ryan, did you want
to? Not much to promote, really. Just come check out my channel, and if you dig it, subscribe. If not, don't worry about it. And what I will say is, as you're doing videos on the sequel trilogy, we're in that time period now where over the next couple of years, I predict we're going to get young YouTubers starting their channels who love the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, like, whenever the next Star Wars movies that Disney is making are going to start coming out. I don't think it's next year, but it might be the year after that or something like that. They had them kind of set up to be like announced, I think, last year, and then they were going to take a few years to produce them. But, you know, by the end of this decade, we'll be getting more Disney Star Wars films. And I kind of think that, like, that's going to, you know, because people are kind of nostalgia brand, you're right. It's probably going to cast that other stuff in a different light.
I look forward to that. I fucking welcome the new era of YouTube where you know, people actually give a shit about the stuff they're talking about, and it's not literally just done to, you know, I don't know. I feel like the algorithm would have to change much more dramatically for it to truly become a sea change of content. But hopefully, they're you know, slow but steady downfall right now, and is going to lead to greener pastures. I mean, look, just since I've been doing this in over 5 years now, the landscape has changed pretty dramatically. It's pretty awesome. You know, and like an opportunist, I've reached out to a lot of the people that I've found that have been doing it, and tried to buddy up to them and learn everything I can. And two of those people right here, and you know, I know, Ryan, you said a second ago, don't worry about it. No, worry about it. Subscribe to Nothing But Media. It's good shit. Hope you guys have a lovely remainder of your week. I'll see you on Actual Fandom on Friday. Probably talk some more about some ICE stuff. Probably gonna look at some we got this fascism tracker that I've been looking at. It's pretty neat. Real-time fascism tracker to see what all they've done so far. Also a Project 2025 tracker. Fun stuff, you know, real cool stuff.
Yeah. Also, I start streaming again soon, next week.
Oh shit.
On
Awesome.
Twitch, twitch.tv/ChariotTV.
You should have me on sometime, and I'll see if I like Twitch.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm gonna be doing a lot of like video game related stuff over there. So
cool. Praise Bill, free Palestine, absolutely. Free everybody that's been fucking locked up by these goddamn Nazis in masks.
Yeah.
Peace.
Reacher, of course, is the antithesis of what Hollywood and streaming services largely want to push these days. Mostly because it stars a strong male character who is also straight, and also the actor behind Reacher, whose name is Alan Ritchson, is an openly devoted Christian man. That last part is very important, by the way, because largely in this day and age, Christianity as a religion is dogpiled on and attacked constantly. Things like the woke mind virus absolutely do go out of their way to attack religion.
That's interesting that he says woke mind virus.
The word woke. I hate the word woke. I think it is absolutely egregious abuse of the gift of language. I think we should be vilifying the use of this word. When we use language, we have an obligation and a responsibility to be so specific that people cannot mince our words, that people cannot misunderstand what we're getting at. But when we use a word like woke, it gives all the latitude to the hearer to fill in the blanks about what I'm actually saying. What is a woke? Is it a noun? When Ron DeSantis was recently reelected, he said Florida is where woke goes to die. Is woke a noun? Is woke a living, breathing thing? How can it go there to die? Whatever could you mean, Ron DeSantis? What could you actually be saying in your veiled contempt? Well, leave it to the hearer to fill in the blank. The word woke has come to be a substitute for whatever we hate the most, whatever we despise the most, whatever we vilify, whatever we want to rally around, whatever our monster is, that is the woke. How can woke go to die? Well, we don't want to say it because it's gross to say, I would like gay people to go die in Florida. We will wipe them out. Or transgendered people will get wiped out in Florida. Blacks, we're going to wipe them out in Florida. See, we can't say that, so we substitute it with an abusive word like woke that allows you to do the heavy lifting. What a cowardly thing to do, DeSantis and anybody else who tosses that word around flippantly.
Woo! bad faith criticism?
Are you a talentless YouTuber pretending to be an expert?
Do you have a tantrum when you're criticized for being totally full of shit?
Then the excuse you need is bad faith criticism.